Chapter 246. In the records of the Gold noble family, the youngest third-grade alchemist had appeared. This news not only caused an uproar in the alchemy chamber, but it also caused an even greater shock. When Ning Yuan heard this, he was startled. He sighed inwardly. If one were to speak of regret, then he did feel a bit of regret. Qi Ning had revealed his alchemy talent. Even in the main family he was outstanding. He would surely have great achievements in the future. If he could be on good terms with him, then the Ning mansion might be able to obtain external help. But now, it was a bit too late to think of these things. Of course, there was only a bit of regret. There was no need to worry or fear. Ning Yuan revealed a strong self-confidence. So what if Qin Yu could become a fourth-grade alchemist in the future? He believed that at that time he would absolutely possess a strength that would make it so that Qin Yu wouldn't dare to act recklessly. Near the peak of the mountain city, the beautiful woman came out from her teacher's residence. Not long after, she heard the news. She was silent for a moment before a smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. "I knew you weren't easy to deal with. If I were to die so easily, wouldn't that make me seem very useless? Qi Ning, perhaps it won't be long before we meet again. But at that time, will you still be able to recognize me? I'm looking forward to it." She charmingly smiled, a faint charm that could turn all living things upside down. Then, she returned to her room and continued to wholeheartedly cultivate. He was rapidly becoming more and more dazzling. If he didn't want to be outdone, he certainly had to work hard. Qi Ning, how could he possibly become a third-grade alchemist? Ning Lu, the 15-year-old talented youth of the Ning mansion, had a twisted and fierce expression on his face. He had played a part in spreading these rumors. There was no other reason than that he looked down on Qi Ning and couldn't accept being suppressed by him. There's a conspiracy. There must be a conspiracy behind this. As the spoiled youth with a twisted personality roared out, several great figures in the alchemy chamber were alarmed and began to discuss this matter. The refinement of the pill and blood energy pill was a failure, but the purple dawn pill was a success. Could there be a problem? An alchemist asked. Pills and blood energy pills were the most widely used and were refined by alchemists the most. There were all sorts of detailed alchemy experiences and techniques, and relatively speaking, they were the least difficult of third-grade pills. The purple dawn pill was rarely used, and the difficulty of refining it was a level higher. Comparing them like this, it seemed very strange. We have examined it carefully, and it is indeed a newly refined spirit pill. There are no problems with the materials, and there are no flaws in the pill itself. The 3 pills were all refined by the same person, so there's no problem with that. Perhaps Qi Ning was lucky and succeeded in refining it. After asking the patrolling examiner, he learned that Qin Yu had been cleanly defeated the first 2 times. Most people agreed with his final fluke. Whether it was a fluke or not, since Qi Ning passed the examination, he can obtain the status of a third-grade alchemist. Another alchemist slowly said, "Of course, the test will be held next month. If he can't pass the basic test, we'll just kick him down." "Yes, let's wait and see next month. The results will be clear." Through some unknown channel, the discussion between the grandmasters of alchemy began to spread. Many people suddenly realized that it was just a fluke. I was wondering how it could be so scary. With luck and coincidence, it was indeed possible for an alchemist to refine a high-tier medicinal pill. It was just that the chances were rather low. With this explanation, most of the gazes focused on Qin Yu began to disperse. The few remaining gazes began to reveal looks of mockery and anticipation. Becoming a third-grade alchemist would allow him to soar into the heavens. But the higher he flew, the harder he would fall. If he were to be kicked down in the examination next month, he would lose all face. Junior apprentice Brother Qi Ning, congratulations! Ning Yuan had a happy expression. She had also heard the conclusion of the Grandmaster's discussion and knew what many people were thinking. But in her heart, She only faintly smiled. Fluke? Just look at how lucky you are. Besides cheating, she had never heard of anyone being kicked down after passing the alchemy examination. Well, taking a step back, even if this really was a coincidence, if Chinyu was able to make such a coincidence occur, that meant he had strength infinitely close to a third-grade alchemist. For him to be able to accomplish this at his age was already amazing enough. What a bunch of ignorant and jealous people. They only knew how to watch Qin Ning lose face, but they never imagined that his achievements had already surpassed the vast majority of them. Qin Yu cupped his hands together. Thank you, Senior Apprentice, Sister Ning Yuan. Without waiting for him to speak, Ning Yuan smiled. Such a young, third-grade alchemist certainly has the qualifications to attend the wedding ceremony. My family has an elder who happens to be in charge of this. Once I mention it, there shouldn't be a problem. Then, thank you, Senior Apprentice Sister. There's no need to be polite with me. It's fine as long as you remember Senior Apprentice, Sister's kindness. Ning Yuan softly said. In the end, she was still a young and charming woman. She was much more courageous than most girls. As she spoke, she looked straight at Qin Yu, her eyes blinking as if they could speak. Qin Yu shook his head inwardly. He had to think of a way to separate himself from Ning Yuan so that she wouldn't suffer a calamity if he attacked her. The great Tao law that could help him reach nascent soul was definitely an extraordinary treasure. If he took it away, how could the Gold noble family not be angry? Seeing that Qin Yu didn't respond and instead seemed to be thinking of something, Ning Yuan blushed red. She softly said, You don't need to worry too much. As long as you have me in your heart, I will handle everything else. Moreover, the clan doesn't forbid the women of the clan from marrying down. I just need you to perform a bit better. She turned and walked away, her laughter echoing in the distance. I will go and discuss this with the elders of my family. Junior Apprentice, Brother Qin Ning, you can do it. You have to work even harder. Qin Yu revealed a helpless smile. He bitterly smiled. This young woman, Ning. It seemed that her thoughts were going further and further awry. He shook his head and turned to leave. But things didn't go as smoothly as Ning Yuan said. When the two met the next day, there was a clear worry in the young woman's eyes. Qin Yu frowned. Senior Apprentice Sister, did it not go smoothly? Ning Yuan sighed. It's all because of the Grandmaster's words. The family doesn't trust your strength too much, and they worry that if you lose face during the wedding ceremony, you will bring shame to the entire clan. She waved her hand. That is only what they think. I have absolute confidence in you. Qin Yu's complexion darkened. He never thought that all of his efforts would be for naught. As Ning Yuan saw his appearance, she clenched her teeth and said, Junior Apprentice Brother Qin Ning, if you really want to participate, I can help you do so. But you must pass next month's examination. Otherwise, even if you submit a name list, it will be erased. Moreover, you and I cannot interact like this in the future. Qin Yu was silent for several breaths of time. He cupped his hands together and said, Senior Apprentice Sister, I'll have to trouble you. Ning Yuan faintly smiled. What she said was the truth, but she also had absolute confidence in Qin Yu from the bottom of her heart. But as long as she said this, then Qin Yu would owe her a favor. This gratitude and guilt would be beneficial to her. This was a young woman. Towards those she liked, she could play some harmless little tricks. Even if she was seen through later, it wouldn't affect her too much. 2 days later, Qin Yu's status token received a message from 10086, congratulating him on obtaining permission to become one of the disciples participating in the grand marriage ceremony. He was asked to prepare himself and wait for the clan's arrangements. Who? Qin Yu let out a light breath and smiled. Within the Gold noble family, news gradually spread out. It was said that a noble daughter of the family was going to be married off to the outside world. Although there were some young juniors who expressed their dissatisfaction with this and shouted that the daughter of the Ning family didn't need to suffer such grievances. All of these voices would disappear the next day. No matter how aggressive the young man was, he or she would remain silent. Gradually, no one said anything. Everyone tacitly agreed. With the arrival of this event, the preparations began to unfold in an orderly manner. The dim light caused the atmosphere in the hall to be a bit stifling. In a gray cage, a woman sat cross-legged. Her complexion was pale and her eyes were light. "Seventh Miss, don't be angry. You should quickly recover from your injuries. There is no need to embarrass yourself." The old man sighed, a bit helpless. The woman looked up, her eyes light. "Old Cloud, are they really going to marry me off?" The old man hesitated for a moment and then nodded. The woman was silent for a long time. She didn't say anything, but her eyes were full of ridicule. "They will not succeed." Old Cloud's heart skipped a beat. "Seventh Miss, what do you plan on doing?" The woman lowered her head, no longer speaking. Old Cloud said, "Seventh Miss, now that you know about the old madam, even if you don't think for yourself, you should still think for her." Seeing the woman remain silent, he shook his head and left. In the gray cage, the woman looked up. On her beautiful and noble face, a trace of misery flashed. Time slowly passed, not speeding up or slowing down according to anyone's will. As the Gold noble family completed their preparations, another month passed. This month's promotion examination had arrived. Qin Yu received a reminder from his status token. As a third-grade alchemist, he had to participate in the foundational examination. He had to refine any type of third-grade pill within a set period of time. Of course, the only advantage was that he didn't need to pay any extra fees for the foundational examination. On this day, many eyes gathered on the alchemy chamber examination area. In particular, when Qin Yu arrived, he attracted everyone's attention. Countless people were waiting and anticipating. But there were no pleasant surprises today. Qin Yu entered the examination area. Qin Yu came out. In the chief examiner's hands were 3 qualified blood energy pills. There was silence. Countless eyes were filled with astonishment, shock, and then awe. Qin Yu had passed this examination and officially confirmed his status. He was a true and upright third-grade alchemist. Within the Gold noble family, he was the youngest third-grade alchemist. There was no fluke. Some people secretly rejoiced. Some people felt sour. Some people flipped tables. Some people cursed out loud. There were all sorts of reactions. But none of this had anything to do with Qin Yu. Not long after he passed the examination, he finally received a message from his status token. It told him to claim his wedding robe and also to receive some guidance. Ning Yuan came to congratulate him. At the same time, she invited Qin Yu to her home as a guest. She said that there were some people who wanted to take this opportunity to express their apologies. It was clear that in this past month, even though he had appeared on the list, there was no follow-up. This was because the elders of Ning Yuan's family didn't favor him. Now that the situation was settled and Qin Yu had proven his strength and potential, he naturally had the capital to be valued by Ning Yuan's family. Qin Yu politely declined. Of course, he gave an excellent reason. He said that he had made some gains in alchemy and needed to temporarily go into seclusion. He was extremely apologetic and would personally pay a visit afterwards. Ning Yuan was surprised. She deeply looked at him and then left with a smile. After returning home, Qin Yu's reason caused the several elders of Ning Yuan's family to reveal dignified expressions. In just several months, he had broken through from the 2nd grade to the 3rd grade, and now he had made some gains. This Qin Yu, his potential was limitless. As for whether or not this was just an excuse, it wasn't that Ning Yuan's family didn't think about it. It was just that they quickly suppressed this thought. For a cultivator with a different surname, if he wanted to truly obtain the recognition and support of the Gold noble family, marrying a woman of the Ning family was the best choice. Ning Yuan had shown graciousness to Qin Yu, and she was beautiful to begin with. Her family also had considerable strength. If Qin Ning wanted to realize his ambitions, he had no reason to refuse. Then there was only one explanation. What he said was true. The old patriarch leisurely said, You and your eyesight is quite good. From now on, the family will not care about your matters. You will be able to control them yourself." This was tacit approval. Ning Yuan blushed red, but her eyes brightened. A faint pride appeared on her beautiful face. The man she had taken a liking to wasn't wrong. Chapter 247. For such a young, third-grade alchemist, even the Gold noble family had to place a certain degree of importance on him. Soon, Qin Yu received a notification that he had been promoted to a sixth-grade disciple. He received a special customer service line, a better residence, maids, and all sorts of other information. Several stewards of the alchemy chambers summoned him. Their expressions were warm and amiable, and they assigned Qin Yu an alchemy chamber, acknowledging that he had the status and qualifications to manage alchemy. Even though the self-proclaimed flower lover did not know what he was thinking, he could not help but squeeze out a smile on his face. After all, with Qin Yu's age and the potential he revealed, it wouldn't be a problem for him to break into a fourth-grade alchemist. If he could find a lucky chance and take another step further, then he would truly be someone with great authority within the Gold noble family. Who would dare to underestimate him? Qin Yu only cared about the great Tao method to break into nascent soul. He didn't care about the goodwill the Gold noble family showed him at all, and calmly dealt with it. Finally, outside the Green Cloud world, the guests who had been invited arrived. On this day, Qin Yu changed out of his robes. He was now wearing a black robe embroidered with red edges. His aura was calm and dignified. He pushed open the door and left the new courtyard. Although he didn't know who the guest was today, there was an extremely high chance that they knew each other. In order to avoid provoking any problems, he chose the simplest job, a peripheral guard. Ning Yuan's family practically treated him as one of their own. For such a small request, they naturally made appropriate arrangements. As for why Qin Yu didn't want to show himself in the limelight, the several elders of Ning Yuan's family thought about it for a moment and then sighed in praise. Qin Ning was hiding his true strength. He was already a third-grade alchemist and was allowed to participate in the grand event of the wedding. This was more than enough to prove his status, but he still couldn't be considered a true member of the Ning family. If he continued to show off, it would be far too ostentatious. Not only did he have strength, but he also had potential. What was rare was that he also knew when to advance and when to retreat. This was extremely rare. Ning Yuan smiled. She unconsciously felt even more satisfied with Qin Yu, junior apprentice, brother Qin Ning. She had been waiting at the intersection, smiling and waving at him. Qin Yu cupped his hands together. "Greetings, senior apprentice sister." Ning Yuan rolled her eyes and lowered her voice. "There are no outsiders here. Is it so hard to call me a nice name?" Compared to the girls in the boudoir, the young married woman was indeed bold and shrewd. After obtaining the approval of her family, she had less misgivings in her actions. These words almost. Qin Yu sighed inwardly. He felt a bit guilty towards Madame Ning, but in front of the great Tao of nascent soul he wouldn't hesitate at all. While he was thinking about how he should escape, a thunderous roar suddenly rose in the distance. Immortal Eclipse, Valley's eclipse, Lenqing brings disciple Zhang Zhongxiu to pay a visit to the Blue Cloud world. The demonic Path's Heaven Star demon has brought Saint Sun Deep Blue to pay a visit to the Blue Cloud world. Sea Region's Moon Praying Shrines Shuezhang brings Prince Deep White to pay a visit to the Blue Cloud world. 3 waves of sound rang out in succession, sweeping across the sky like a great tide. Qin Yu's eyes flashed. He never thought that the 3 parties that came today would all be old acquaintances. He took this chance to cup his hands together and say, "Senior apprentice sister, please forgive me. I will be going now." Whoosh, he soared into the sky. Ning Yuan's expression was solemn. She didn't stop him, but there was worry in the depths of her eyes. Immortal Eclipse, Valley, and the demonic path were still fine because they were within the boundaries of the continent. But the sea region was tens of millions of miles away from the Blue Cloud world. Today, 3 parties actually came at the same time. It was obvious that they had an agreement beforehand. It was obvious that they had come with ill intentions. In the blue cloud world, the gold noble family had already prepared themselves. A massive number of cultivators soared into the skies, welcoming the people from the 3 sides. Fellow Taoist Zhao Lenqing, it's been many years since we last met. You look as graceful as before. Heaven Star Demon, your cultivation is becoming increasingly formidable. If you have time, let's exchange pointers again. Commander Shuizheng, this is your first time coming to my blue cloud world. You must stay for several more days, so that my Ning family can play host to you. The Ning family powerhouses were all smiles and polite. In the end, they were in the wrong when they tried to open up the space. Luckily, the clan had decided to marry off their wicked daughter, so the 3 parties would soon be able to resolve their responsibilities. Heaven Star Demon lightly said, I have come on the orders of the Saint Lord to ask Saint Sun, Deep Blue, to marry the 7th Mississippi. I ask that the Ning family agree. Shuizheng had no expression. My clan's majesty and Lord Priest have ordered me to bring the 7th Miss back to the sea races no matter what. As soon as the 2 sides spoke, they began to oppose each other. Black energy flashed in Heaven Star Demon's eyes before he immediately suppressed it. The sea region was terrifyingly strong. Even if they couldn't casually land on the continent, it was still best not to provoke them. Humph! Eclipse Linking's complexion darkened. Although he couldn't help but admit that Immortal Eclipse Valley was the weakest of the 3, he certainly couldn't accept that the other 2 sides had completely ignored him. My Immortal Eclipse Valley is also determined to obtain the 7th Miss. Heaven Star Demon coldly sneered. The one I brought is my demonic path Saint Sun. He has obtained the approval of the Lord Demon Monarch and will inherit my demonic path's legacy in the future. How can the people you brought possibly compete with my Saint Sun? Deep Blue lowered his head. Surrounded by these great figures, he seemed respectful and meek. But the overbearing aura that surrounded him constantly revealed his formidable self-confidence. Golden core perfection, half-step nascent soul. In fact, his aura was no less powerful than that of an ordinary early nascent soul. After experiencing a disastrous defeat in the sea region, Saint Sun Deep Blue clearly hadn't sunk into depravity. Rather, he emerged from his setbacks and became even stronger. Eclipse Lenqing was enraged. Zhang Zhongxiu is the only disciple of my Immortal Eclipse Valley Master, and he is the master of the 8th furnace. His alchemy talent is astonishing, and he has already reached the peak of the 3rd grade. He can step into the 4th grade at any time. His future is limitless. How could he not compare to you, the demonic path Saint Sun? Zhang Zhongxiu had a light expression. He had occupied an important position for many years, and his temperament was calm. When combined with his handsome appearance, he was no less dazzling than Deep Blue. The complexions of the gold noble families' several powerhouses changed. This was truly worthy of being the #1 alchemy sect, Immortal Eclipse Valley. Even such a young disciple had nearly touched upon the 4th grade realm. Compared to him, that Qin Ning who had appeared in the clan a while ago was far inferior. Heaven Star Demon seemed to have already planned this. He revealed a strange smile and suddenly said, I heard that an alchemy genius also appeared in the Ning family some time ago. How about we have a competition so that I can broaden my horizons? After all, alchemy strength cannot compare with cultivation. No one can see through it, so who knows whether or not your Immortal Eclipse Valley is lying or not? Eclipse Lenqing coldly coughed. In the path of alchemy, my Immortal Eclipse Valley is #1 in the world. Even in the blue cloud world, you still dare to speak such words. He coldly glared at Heaven Star Demon. Heaven Star Demon, I know of your sinister thoughts, but the honor of my Immortal Eclipse Valley's alchemy path cannot be slandered. Zhang Zhongxiu You will have a competition with the Ning family genius to prove your strength and express your sincerity in marrying the 7th Mississippi. Helplessness flashed in Zhang Zhongxiu's eyes. In truth, he didn't want to accept this 7th Miss that he had never met before. But his teacher had said that even if he didn't succeed, he still had to destroy this matter and not allow the demonic path to succeed. He took a deep breath and cupped his hands together. Yes, High Master. The complexions of the gold, noble family darkened. Originally, they should have been able to sit on the sidelines and watch the 3 sides fight. But how come they were suddenly dragged into the water? The key point was that they couldn't refuse. Otherwise, they would be admitting that the juniors of the gold, noble family couldn't compare to those from immortal Eclipse Valley. After a moment of hesitation, a nascent soul powerhouse from the gold, noble family turned and ordered. Order someone to find Qin Ning. The juniors hurried away. Everyone, let us go to the reception hall first. We will need to make some preparations for the alchemy competition. Heaven Star Demon faintly smiled. I will wait and see. Eclipse Lenqing was expressionless. He certainly knew that he had fallen into Heaven Star Demon's trap. In this battle with the gold noble family's alchemy genius, regardless of whether Zhang Zhongxiu won or lost, it would increase the difficulty of marrying the 7th Mississippi. But if Zhang Zhongxiu's performance was outstanding enough, then this would also be a chance to show off his skills. He knew that this apprentice nephew Zhang had made a breakthrough in alchemy not too long ago. Immortal Eclipse Valley was the weakest of the 3 sides, so it was impossible for them to compete head-on. Perhaps they had a chance if they took another path. Otherwise, for better or worse, Eclipse Lenqing was still a nascent soul powerhouse. So how could he have fallen into such a trap? Shuizhang had a calm expression, as if he didn't care about the battle between the demonic path and immortal Eclipse Valley. Beside him, there was a pale-faced prince, high deep white. When Qin Yu had kidnapped Princess Lushy, he had once met him. His white robes and white hair were the same as before, but he didn't have the same calm spirit as before, as if he had suffered a tremendous blow. After Qin Yu learned that Immortal Eclipse Valley had proposed an alchemy competition with him, he was startled for a moment before bitterly smiling. Indeed, the plans of man were no match for the plans of the heavens. He had already avoided them ahead of time, but he never imagined that a mistake would occur. It was certainly impossible to compete in alchemy, otherwise he would be exposed as soon as he showed himself. You are a dignified great master with combat strength comparable to a nascent soul, yet you sneaked into the gold noble family. Who would you be fooling if you said you didn't have some ulterior motive? Qin Yu's thoughts raced. He coughed and covered his stomach with his hands. Senior apprentice brother, I have an unbearable pain in my stomach. I will bid my farewells first. He turned and left. Before the Ning family cultivator could regain his composure, he had vanished from sight in several blinks of an eye. It wasn't just the Ning family cultivator who sent the message, but the surrounding people were also stunned. Was this the legendary shit and pissing escape technique? But at this critical juncture, was this really the right thing to do? To flee without a fight, where would the gold noble family's face be placed? After a moment of shock, the Ning family cultivator regained his composure. He stomped his feet and cursed. You bastard! What are you all standing around for? Hurry up and find him and bring him directly to the welcoming hall. He turned and rushed out. He had to immediately report this matter to the elders of the family. At this time in the welcoming hall, 2 high-grade pill furnaces had already been prepared. Several sets of materials were placed together, and a light medicinal fragrance wafted through the air. Several Ning family nascent souls were enthusiastically entertaining the guests that had come from afar. Everyone have a taste. This is a new tea from an old tea plant in the family. Every 30 years, there are only a few genes produced, and the taste isn't bad. Ning Wanwan smiled as he spoke. Today he had come out to greet them on behalf of the patriarch, so he naturally had to maintain some face. Just as his voice fell, a disciple walked over to his side and said a few words. Ning Wanwan's face stiffened and a trace of anger gushed out from the depths of his eyes. But in the end, he was still a shrewd individual. He took a deep breath and his complexion returned to normal. Even so, he could still feel the unnatural expression on his face. What nonsense! How could he be natural? The dignified, gold, noble family, the clan with the most noble bloodline in the world, had actually sent a subordinate cultivator to flee without a fight. Moreover, he had used a shameless method like using shit and pissing to escape. If that bastard Chi Ning was here, Elder Ning Wanwan would definitely let him know what it meant to be worse than death. In the hall, the other Ning family elders also learned of this matter. Although they tried their best to maintain their calm, the atmosphere in the hall became stiff. Heaven Star Demon's eyes flashed. He smiled and said, "Where is that alchemy genius from your noble race? Why hasn't he appeared yet?" The Ning family elder's smile became a bit more forced. Ning Wanwan waved his hand to summon a disciple. After asking a few questions, he smiled and said, "Unfortunately, this disciple of my tribe suddenly went into seclusion to cultivate. He said that he had made some progress in alchemy. It looks like today's alchemy competition will have to be postponed." It wasn't that he hadn't thought of changing to someone else to compete with Zhang Zhongxiu. But if these three people said that they didn't have spies in the Gold Noble family, he wouldn't believe them. What's more, the clan had long noticed some hidden spies. It was just that they couldn't touch the real secrets, so they turned a blind eye and let them stay. Perhaps he knew Qin Ning, perhaps he didn't. But it was better not to take this risk. If he was exposed, he couldn't afford to lose face. Heaven Star Demon's lips curved up. "Is that so? It looks like some people can show off for a bit longer." Eclipse Lenqing coldly shouted, "Heaven Star Demon, stop making insinuations. How can you ruin the reputation of my immortal Eclipse Valley? If you continue to speak without thinking, I will not forgive you." Heaven Star Demon laughed. How laughable! I wondered just who it was that was so frightened by my demonic path that they didn't dare to casually step out these past years. Eclipse Lenqing, if you aren't convinced, then once this matter is over, you and I can fight. Eclipse Lenqing's complexion darkened. Good, then I will wait for you. The Ning family took this chance to end today's meeting. They ordered their disciples to lead them to their respective residences. After the cultivators from the three sides left, their complexions paled and they left in a huff. The Gold Noble family was marrying off a daughter and the three factions were fighting over it. They should have been sitting on the high platform, watching the rain and listening to the flowers, but they were the first ones to be embarrassed. How could these elders not be angry? In the end, they were even forced to lie and escape. To the proud Gold Noble family members, this was a great humiliation and helplessness. Qin Yu was also helpless right now. He couldn't tell others that he had his own difficulties and couldn't reveal his identity. Thus, he could only keep his mouth shut when faced with questions. Ning Yuan had a worried expression. "Qin Ning, today's alchemy competition isn't the main point to begin with. It would be best if you won, but even if you lost, it wouldn't matter. As long as you revealed your strength as a third-grade alchemist, the family wouldn't blame you. But what you shouldn't have done is that you shouldn't have avoided the fight. The elders in the clan are all very concerned about their reputation. If you do this, they won't be able to find a way out of this embarrassing situation and will definitely be punished." Qin Yu bitterly smiled. The Ning family cared about their face, and Ning Yuan had pointed out the crux of the matter. In this mysterious family, everyone was proud to the bones. Although it was a great taboo for him to avoid the fight, he had no other choice. Seeing him remain silent, Ning Yuan's eyes dimmed. But she didn't give up. "Qin Ning, is there something you find difficult to say? Tell me, and I will help you think of a way." Suddenly, the courtyard doors were pushed open and several black-clothed Ning family cultivators walked in with gloomy expressions. "Qin Ning, come with us." Qin Yu had already expected this. He nodded to Ning Yuan and left. Ning Yuan paled. These were people from the discipline hall. Qi Ning had made a grave mistake this time. If he went in, he would likely suffer. She clenched her teeth and hurried back home. Just as she was about to mention this matter, she was interrupted by an elder. "Ning Yuan, don't interfere in this matter. My face has been lost because of him. I thought so highly of him in vain. Avoiding the fight is an insult to my family's prestige. This is destroying his own future. The family will not give him another chance. Stay away from him in the future and let him fend for himself." After speaking, he coldly snorted and left. Ning Yuan's heart was filled with bitterness and bitterness. "Qi Ning, you are so smart and determined. So how could you make such a wrong decision? Now, even I have no way to save you." Chapter 248. Ning Family Discipline Hall. The atmosphere was cold and unfriendly. In the dim lobby, 5 Ning family cultivators sat at a table with pale complexions. Their eyes were so gloomy that it seemed as if they would drip water at any moment. "Qi Ning, how dare you? Even now you still refuse to admit your guilt." The second person from the left, a middle-aged man with a light beard, growled. His voice trembled slightly, but his anger was raging. "Qin," you cupped his hands together. "May I ask, what have I done wrong?" "You avoided the alchemy competition with Immortal Eclipse Valley, greatly damaging the prestige of my clan. This is an unforgivable crime. Yet you still want to quibble?" Another Ning family cultivator roared. There were others who lamented bitterly, as if saying, "How could this brat still have any face left to continue living in this world?" "The clan has attached great importance to you, originally having intentions of fostering you. Who would have thought that you would be so unsightly, betraying our clan's trust?" Qin Yu had an innocent look on his face. "It's not that I didn't want to fight. It's just that my stomach is unbearable. As the saying goes, people have 3 urgent needs, and no one can avoid them. Don't try to deny it, no matter how glib your tongue is. Do you think you can fool us?" This disciple does not dare, but all of this was an accident, and this disciple has suffered greatly. "You still dare to shirk responsibility," no matter how aggressive he was and how he angrily shouted at him. Qin Yu could only cry out that he was wronged. It was clear that he couldn't agree to this. Otherwise, there was no telling how the Ning family would punish him. The Sea region, the demonic path, and Immortal Eclipse Valley had arrived. Qin Yu believed that the turning point he had been waiting for would soon arrive. He didn't feel any pressure at all if he acted shamelessly. The stalemate continued for a long time without Qin Yu admitting his guilt. The 5 Ning family cultivators gasped for breath, their throats hoarse from all the shouting. The bearded, middle-aged cultivator waved his hand. "Qi Ning, don't think that just because you refuse to admit it, we have no way to punish you. Guards, lock him up. As long as he doesn't confess, he won't be allowed out. Let's see how long he can last." 2 men with fierce auras walked in. They swept their eyes over Qin Yu and sneered. If he didn't admit it no matter what, it would only make the discipline hall angrier. This boy would suffer. The rules of the Gold noble family were strict and strict. When it came to disciples that didn't share the Gold noble family surname, they had to be even more cautious in dealing with them. This was a custom that had been formed in the early years, and it had proven that this was extremely useful in stabilizing the family's rule and also in drawing in talented cultivators from the outside world. It had to be mentioned here. The reason the Gold noble family took in outside cultivators was similar to the reason the Sea races wanted to recruit Qin Yu as their son-in-law. The reason that the Gold noble family was so strong was because they inherited a formidable bloodline. By absorbing outstanding cultivators from the outside and fusing their bloodline with them, it was guaranteed that the Gold noble family's bloodline would never decline. It was because of this that cultivators that didn't share the Gold noble family surname would be dissatisfied with them. Anything that involved them needed to be handled in a more fair and transparent manner. Otherwise, a mere 3rd-grade alchemist would be able to crush him to pieces with just a thought. Of course, if the Gold noble family really did this, they would discover that this harmless little rabbit in front of them would instantly turn into a vicious dragon that ate people without spitting out bones. Qi Ning's will is firm. You and I have tried for a long time, but to no avail. I fear it will be difficult to capture him. It's not easy to make him admit his guilt. That Junior Qi Ning is extremely cunning. If he insists that a person has 3 needs, then it won't be easy for us to punish him too harshly. Perhaps we can try to have the cultivators from the outer branch come and put pressure on him. He might be able to play dumb in front of you and me, but that won't necessarily work on them. That's true. Thus, Ning Yiran headed downwards and entered the blue cloud world's Ning Mansion. This chapter is not finished. Please continue to the next page. The identity medallion of all the cultivators received a message asking them to assist in the investigation. The next day, Qin Yu's dungeon was visited. Ning Yiran frowned. He slowly said, "Qin Ning, you have really disappointed me." In his heart, he had once regarded Qin Yu as a rival and even a goal to motivate him. But the reality was so unbearable. The beautiful woman was silent. Her watery eyes fell on Qin Yu's body. Her eyes were gentle and light, as if there weren't any fluctuations at all. However, there was a bit of confusion hidden deep within. She didn't believe that someone as smart and cautious as him would actually make such a simple and crude mistake. But what she saw in front of her seemed to be the truth. The first to speak was Ning Lu. His heavy complexion contained a bit of suppressed pleasure. "Qi Ning, you are someone recommended by my Ning Mansion. It's fine if you are so unbearable, but you actually try to escape your crimes. I advise you to admit your guilt as soon as possible so that you don't suffer any more. The Master's methods are beyond your imagination. He naturally has a way to make you open your mouth." Qin Yu glanced at him and shook his head. "I've already explained myself. This wasn't what I wanted. It was just a coincidence." "Humph! What nonsense! Do you think we are all idiots? Us cultivators have healthy bodies. If we weren't injured or poisoned, why would we suddenly have an unbearable stomach ache?" Qin Ning sneered, his eyes filled with contempt. Such a poor excuse was just laughable. Qin Yu closed his eyes. "I've already explained myself. If you don't believe me, there's nothing I can do." Ning Yiran shook his head. "Qin Ning, there is one thing that Ning Lu is right about. If the Master wants someone to admit their guilt, there is always a way. You don't have much time to think about it, so do your best." He turned and left. A trace of disappointment flashed in the woman's eyes. She thought that Qin Ning had his own reasons for doing this. But now, besides refusing to admit his guilt, there was nothing else she could do. But was this really useful? She was prepared to say something, but as she saw the situation, there was no need to say anything. She gently sighed and turned to leave, an inexplicable sense of melancholy in her heart. The other Ning Mansion cultivators sneered and followed behind the two of them. Right now, they were working hard to improve themselves. How could they have the time to waste here? He, the youngest third-grade alchemist of the Gold noble family, a rising star with a limitless future. Thinking about it now, it seemed particularly ironic. Ning Lu squatted down. Separated by the array formation, he chuckled. "Qin Ning, I really dislike you. So whether it is the Ning Mansion or the Blue Cloud world, I have participated in all the rumors about you. No, strictly speaking, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that I deliberately led the Blue Cloud world this time. You are only a lowly cultivator with a different surname. So how can you be more outstanding than me? After today, you are doomed to fall into a bottomless abyss. As for me, I will rise step by step until I finally become a dazzling existence that you can't even look at. Don't ask me why. I don't want to explain myself. To hate someone and then think of a way to destroy them is a very simple matter. Unfortunately, the one who will destroy you is you. It has nothing to do with me. If I think about it in the future, I might be a bit disappointed." Ning Lu stood up, the smile on his face brighter. to be able to speak the words in his heart without any scruples. This was the right of the victor. It was clear that he was the victor. However, what surprised Ning Lu was that as Qin Yu heard these words, he remained calm. His complexion didn't even change, and he didn't even open his eyes to look at him. Is it because you don't want to lose face in front of me? Perhaps at this time his heart was filled with discomfort, as if a raging inferno were burning in his heart. Ning Lu stood up. He flicked the non-existent dust off his clothes, as if he didn't want to be contaminated by it. The bad luck here made him turn around to leave. He had already said what he needed to say. Perhaps in the future, the two of them wouldn't cross paths again, so there was no need to waste any more time on Qin Yu. At this time, within the cage, Qin Yu's eyes flashed open, a divine light flashing within them. An old voice sounded out in the depths of his mind. "Little friend Qin Yu, if you don't make a move now, when will you?" In the next moment, a heaven-shaking rumble echoed out, causing the entire prison to tremble. And this was underground, so it was unknown how far away it was. From this, it could be imagined just what sort of terrifying strength was contained within this rumble. Ning Li's complexion paled and his mind buzzed. His eyes turned dazed and panic-stricken, not knowing just what was happening. Before he could regain his composure, there was another explosion behind him and a blinding light erupted. He turned around, his mouth hanging open, as if he had seen something unbelievable. Qin Yu grasped the cage with both hands and forcefully pulled it apart. On the surface of the cage, array formation runes crazily revolved and terrifying thunder bombarded his body. But whether it was the array formation runes or the horrifying thunder, none of them were able to shake him in the least. The hole in the cage became increasingly large. The ground trembled and cracks rapidly appeared, spreading outwards like a spider web. Ning Li's eyes widened in panic. Endless fear flooded his mind like a tide. He knew that what he should do now was turn around and flee as far as he could. But it was like his feet had taken root. He wasn't able to move at all. As a result, he was only alarmed and in despair. When a Hong roar sounded, that cage was already broken into pieces, the ground exploding. "Pah!" Qin Yu landed on the ground. He strode out, not even glancing to the side. Ning Li's heart leapt into his throat. Suddenly, he felt a bit more at ease. Perhaps he didn't care about himself at all. Then he was ecstatic at having escaped death, as well as puzzled at having finally regained his ability to think. How could Qin Ning possibly possess such terrifying strength? The twisted mind instantly gained the upper hand. A trace of resentment appeared in his eyes. No matter how strong Qin Ning was, forcefully breaking out of this cage was a capital crime. The masters of the main clan would definitely kill him. As he was filled with anticipation and joy, Ning Lu suddenly felt the scene in front of him tumble. Not too far away, a person was lying on the ground, blood gushing out from his mouth. His clothes were so familiar. Where was his head? Qin Yu walked up the stairs. The cage door wasn't closed, and the guards outside were looking into the distant skies with shock and horror. They didn't see Qin Yu walk out. Looking up, it seemed to be the entrance to the blue cloud world. The vault of heaven had collapsed, and massive cracks covered the skies like canyons. It was an extremely terrifying aura. Even standing here, he could clearly feel it. Qin Yu's expression became dignified. He originally thought that the Sea Sovereign was the most formidable existence in the world, but he never imagined that he would see powerful characters that could compare with him today. Moreover, there were two of them at once. The one that warned him must be one of them. But why did they help him? They didn't even hesitate to become enemies with the gold noble family and pay such a great price. One didn't need to be a genius to know that they were plotting something. Qin Yu suddenly discovered that things seemed to have changed. Dread began to rise from the depths of his heart. But with things having come this far, the chance to obtain a nascent soul was right in front of him. Even if he knew it was wrong, he couldn't shrink back. "Qin Ning, why are you here?" Ning Yiren shouted out loud. As the future leader of the Ning Mansion, He was the first to discover a figure that shouldn't be here. Schwa! Several guards swept their eyes over, their killing intent thick. Chapter 249. Qin Yu drew back his gaze. He glanced at Ning Yiran and then walked away. Where do you think you're going? Stay here. With a roar, the guard attacked. His supernatural powers shined with an incomparably dazzling light, condensing into chains that swept towards him. Bang! With a loud explosion, all of the chains disintegrated. The guard cried out miserably as he was sent flying backwards. Blood wildly gushed out from his head. The entire scene fell deathly silent. Everyone's eyes widened. They looked at the tall and straight figure walking away. He didn't stop at all, but that brief exchange just now was more than enough to reveal his formidable strength. Nascent soul. Ning Yiran suddenly discovered that he had been mistaken from the very start. Qi Ning had never been his match because the two of them weren't on the same level to begin with. Her beautiful eyes tumbled like a tide. The originally disappointed person suddenly began to shine with a brilliant light. Even she was shaken and lost the ability to think. Suddenly, she thought back to the terrifying powerhouse that had brazenly rushed into the blue cloud world just now, and then to Qin Yu's sudden eruption of attacks. There must be some connection between the two. Whoosh! Whoosh! The sound of breaking air howled out. A guard's face was covered in blood. In the blue cloud world, no one dares to disobey my Ning family. You will die. Schwa! The beams of light scattered, revealing two figures. One was a man and one was a woman, both of them middle-aged. Their bodies exuded a boundless aura as deep as a prison. And what was even more astonishing was that their auras were faintly connected, creating a result where 1 + 1 was greater than 2. The auras of these two early nascent soul cultivators were actually more terrifying than those of ordinary middle nascent souls. Disciplinary elders. Qin Ning has broken out of the prison. He must be a spy from the outside world. Please capture him. The wounded guard roared. Ning Yiran turned and rapidly retreated. The outer branch cultivators were startled for a moment before they hurriedly followed. They thought that they had no future and that their reactions were slower than others. In a battle between nascent souls like them, how was it any different from seeking death if they approached? Ning Yiran's eyes fell on Qin Yu. His expression was dignified, and it was impossible to see what he was thinking. As for the woman with the beautiful eyes, she gently frowned, a trace of regret flashing in her eyes. Nascent souls were indeed very strong, but this was the Green Cloud world where the main clan was located. Experts were as common as trees in a forest, so what if they were nascent souls? As for the other outer branch Ning Mansion cultivators, after their initial shock, they all revealed happy expressions. No matter how fierce Qin Ning was, didn't he still die in the end? The middle-aged man and woman were husband and wife. Their eyes were icy cold as they covered Qin Yu's body. No matter who you are, hiding your identity and intruding into the blue cloud world is a capital crime. The two raised their hands and clapped forward. In an instant, the wind and clouds surged, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth boiled. A huge hand appeared, its surface mottled and covered with the marks of time. It seemed like a divine ability from a long time ago had been summoned by the two of them from across space and time. Before it even descended, the entire area fell into a stalemate, and the air was so thick that it almost solidified. Qin Yu looked up, praise flashing in his eyes. They were truly worthy of being called the Gold Noble Family. With this supernatural power, they could even suppress a middle nascent soul. However, his face was still as calm as ever. He stopped in his tracks, raised his hand, and pointed up into the sky. Winds and clouds stirred once more. A finger pierced through the vast skies. After a moment of silence, there was a heaven-shaking rumble. Shock waves swept outwards, causing his black hair to flutter about. Ning Yiran lifted his hand and clapped. The beautiful woman beside him also reached out a slender jade hand. Then their complexions paled and they rapidly drew backwards. Not too far away, they saw a tall figure standing there, a look of shock in their eyes. Qin Yu's strength had surpassed their expectations. The middle-aged man and woman had grim expressions. Although their attack, just now, seemed simple, the two of them had used their full strength, and yet they hadn't been able to shake Qin Yu at all. But in the next moment, their expressions calmed down. They lifted their hands and pointed several times in the air. As their fingers fell, the world in front of them was still the same, but it had suddenly become different. It was heavy and cruel, and the killing intent was invisible and intangible. Yet it struck straight into the heart. As his fingers descended, the world in front of him was still the same world, yet it had suddenly become different. It was heavy and ruthless, and the murderous aura was formless and intangible. Yet it struck directly at the heart. Qin Yu looked up to see countless runes of array formations appear above his head. Then, black clouds gushed out and blinding lightning flashed. This terrifying aura was even more horrifying than nascent soul, heavenly tribulation. Bang! Thunder roared forth. Qin Yu looked up at the middle-aged man and woman. He lightly said, "I don't want to kill you. Move aside." The killing array was filled with thunder, and there were even two great nascent souls standing guard. For him to say such words was simply arrogant to the extreme. But soon, there was no longer any sound in the world. Everyone's eyes widened as they stared at the scene in front of them. Even the middle-aged man and woman couldn't help but feel their minds shake, horror on their faces. They saw that terrifying thunder strike Qin Yu, but his body was like a black hole, causing the thunder to distort and then be swallowed into his stomach. Then, terrifying thunder descended one after another, bringing with it an endless killing intent. But the result didn't change. Beneath the black clouds, the thunder was like a prison. The blinding lightning made it hard to look straight at it. Qin Yu calmly walked forwards. This scene was like a miracle. He walked out from the black clouds, avoiding the thunder. He looked up at the summit of the mountain city, at the place covered in fog. An intuition, an impulse, gradually appeared in his heart. The chance to reach the nascent soul great Tao was right there. Pa! The ground shattered into powder. Qin Yu burst forwards like a bolt of lightning. Ning Yiran and the woman beside him revealed complex expressions. Was this his true strength? The middle-aged man and woman paled. Their eyes were filled with anger and shame. But at this moment, they really didn't dare to stop him. This scene was like a miracle. The psychological impact it created was enough to crush all of their pride and self-confidence. But if he wanted to rely on just this to wreak havoc in the blue cloud world, it might not be enough. Even if they didn't dare to do anything, there would naturally be others who would. Bang! On the mountain summit in front of him, a sword intent soared into the heavens. The terrifying aura was incomparably sharp, as if it could cut apart the world. In the blink of an eye, a sword phantom condensed. The sword edge cut through the void, trembling and twisting as it cut down towards Qin Yu's head. He looked up. His black hair was swept up by the strong winds, and his face stung with pain. He couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Qin Yu lifted a hand and pointed forwards. Clang! Like a divine sword being unsheathed, it emitted a resonant sword cry. The white sword revealed its tyrannical potential. It met the sword phantom. Even though it moved later, it arrived first, colliding with it. Who? The collapsing sword intent was like a torrential rain of swords. In the blink of an eye, for 100 miles around the mountain, all of the ancient trees were cut in half. Then they were swept away by the sword intent, torn to shreds and scattered everywhere. On the exposed mountain summit, an old man in a sword robe was sitting cross-legged. His face was deathly pale, and for 100 feet around him, there wasn't even a single inch of land that was intact. Puff! He spat out a mouthful of blood. Countless cracks appeared on the surface of his body, and tiny beads of blood seeped out. In the blink of an eye, he was covered in blood. The attacks of a sword cultivator were terrifying, but their weakness was that they were one with the sword. Breaking their sword was the same as breaking their body. Even if this old sword cultivator didn't die today, his cultivation would still fall. Qin Yu didn't stop. He stepped over the bare mountain peak, heading towards the place where the fog lingered. The blue cloud world had suddenly encountered a powerful enemy. At this time, at the entrance of the collapsed space, there were still terrifying auras constantly spreading out, causing the canyon-like cracks to spread out. Such a commotion instantly attracted the attention of countless people. Not only were there people from the Gold noble family, but there were also honored guests from 3 different directions that had come from afar. Deep Blue clenched his fists, his eyes filled with hatred. But there was also a trace of panic that he didn't want to admit. Qin Yu! It was Qin Yu. There was no way he would mistake this face for someone else. But it had only been several years since they last met in the sea region, and yet Qin Yu had already become so powerful. In the past, although he wasn't his match, Qin Yu had taken advantage of the power of a treasure. If he truly fought with everything he had, he might have been able to win. But now his eyes were locked onto the figure that was stepping into the skies. Deep Blue's nails dug into his palms, but he didn't feel them at all. He didn't want to admit it, but he had no choice but to do so. If they fought again today, he feared he would die on the spot. Heaven Star Demon had a dignified expression. His thoughts raced. In the past, he had discovered a great secret on Qin Yu's body. Unfortunately, he didn't have the chance to do so. Qin Yu had used the blood escape to escape. Today, the more powerful Qin Yu's performance was, the more intense his greed for the demon body became. Today, if he helped the Gold noble family, he might be able to capture Qin Yu and then find a chance to seize his demon body. But who was the one fighting the Ning family old ancestor? Such a terrifying demonic energy wasn't any worse than the demon monarchs. Brother Qin. Zhang Zhongxiu was shocked. His eyes rapidly flashed as he turned around. Eclipse Lenqing took a deep breath. He said in a low voice, "I indeed don't like him, but in the end, Qin Yu is someone of my immortal Eclipse Valley. I won't do anything to him." Of course, there was one thing he wouldn't admit, and that was that a faint fear was slowly spreading in his heart. Zhang Zhongxiu calmed down a little. His thoughts raced. It wasn't a coincidence that Qin Yu appeared at this time. He looked at the shattered skies in the distance, a thoughtful look on his face. Perhaps there was something he needed in the Gold noble family. Shui Zheng straightened his body. His eyes darkened, and he slowly unsheathed himself like a heavy sword. High Deep White had a complex look in his eyes. In the next moment, his expression turned icy cold. If it weren't for Qin Yu, the Whale Sovereign wouldn't have died, and he wouldn't have fallen into the fate of being imprisoned by his royal father. But now, all of his plans had come to nothing. It was no longer possible for him to sit on that supreme throne. If one had to ask who he hated the most in the world, then High Deep White would absolutely vote for Qin Yu. But at this time he didn't say anything. He glanced at Shui Zheng from the corner of his eyes and covered up the chill in his eyes. Bang! A terrifying explosion rang out once more. Qin Yu had already heard it when he was in the dungeon. But now that he was stepping into the skies, it was naturally even clearer. A shock wave spread out at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was like a strong gust of wind rising from the ground. The ancient trees on the mountain bent down from the pressure. Some couldn't withstand it and were directly torn apart. They were sucked into the skies and turned to pieces. Qin Yu paused and turned around. He saw a beam of light shoot towards him, tearing apart the layers of fog in front of him. Countless array formations and spells appeared one at a time, but none of them were able to stop this beam of light at all. It pierced through as if it were rotten wood. Then it fell onto the summit of a mountain, landing in a common-looking side hall. The entire mountain trembled. The defensive strength of this side hall had reached an inconceivable level. When that terrifying beam of light crashed into it, it only caused cracks to appear all over it. Even so, it didn't collapse. But this was already enough. Beams of golden light gushed out from the cracks in the side hall. In the blink of an eye, they illuminated the skies like a burning flame. Qin Yu could feel the aura of strength contained within this golden light. His intuition told him that the object that could help him break into the nascent soul realm was in this side hall. It was so clear, so intense, that a raging fire ignited in his chest. His eyes blazed with heat. Chapter 250. The rich golden light contained an incomparably formidable aura. It clearly displayed the strength it possessed. All of the cultivators who saw the golden light and sensed it had a clear thought in their minds. This was an extremely powerful treasure. They didn't know what it was or what use it had, but it easily stirred up the greed in everyone's hearts. There was even a desperate urgency. If they could obtain it and control it, they could have everything. The resentment in Deep Blue's eyes completely turned into greed. He stubbornly stared at the golden light, his throat bobbing up and down. Heaven Star Demon was a bit better. A nascent soul cultivator had a strong will, but from his trembling face, it was clear he wasn't calm at all. It is rumored that the Gold noble family possesses a supreme treasure. It is by relying on this treasure that they are able to possess the Blue Cloud World. The master of this treasure is the master of the Blue Cloud World. Within this world fragment, there is an inconceivable strength. If I'm not wrong, this golden light is related to this treasure. Deep Blue licked his lips. 7 kill sect master, what do you mean? Heaven Star Demon said in a soft voice, the Gold noble family has encountered a great enemy. As guests, we also intend to marry them, so how can we stand idly by and allow these thieves to wreak havoc? Deep Blue nodded. 7 kill sect master is right. Whoosh! The two of them shot into the skies. High, Deep White shivered. He could feel a strong beckoning from this golden light, as if it should have originally belonged to him. In fact, his intuition even grew in his heart. If he could obtain the main body of this golden light, he could reverse his current predicament and fight once more. This was a treasure that could change his destiny. Mine it is mine. Shuizheng frowned. He turned and said, Prince Deep White, you and I came here to ask for the Ning family's daughter's hand in marriage. I hope that you don't cause unnecessary trouble. High Deep White sneered. It's true that we are asking for the Ning family's daughter's hand in marriage, but I ask Commander Shuizheng to keep your eyes open. The demonic path has already made their move, so are we just going to sit back and do nothing? Shua! He flew out from the courtyard. Black water vapor gushed out from his body, condensing into the phantom of a flood dragon. With a roar, it soared towards the summit. Eclipse Lenqing stared at the golden light on the summit. He coldly said, No matter what that is, we cannot allow it to fall into the hands of the demonic path. Follow me, we are going to take a look. He took a step forward and whistled away. At the same time, as the side hall was destroyed, golden light gushed out. The vast green cloud world suddenly seemed to shake at its foundation. As a result, the area of collapse rapidly expanded. Apart from the giant cracks that spread outwards, there were also countless small cracks that appeared on their own. In the blink of an eye, the green cloud world actually showed signs of collapsing. Heaven's seek, old demon, you've gone too far! Furious roars suddenly rang out from within. After a loud boom, 2 figures flew out from within the darkness. One of them was shrouded in darkness, while the other was burning with golden flames. A terrifying aura surged out, causing the space around them to distort, making it impossible to see their appearances clearly. Their figures were magnified dozens of times due to the spatial distortions, making them look like gods fighting. The river flows east for 30 years, and then west for 30 years. When you tried to kill me back then, you should have anticipated that a situation like this would occur. My Ning family has already paid a high enough price for what happened in the past. You have already agreed to let bygones be bygones, so why are you going back on your word? Demonic path cultivators are shameless and despicable. So what if they do something like treachery? If you don't accept it, you can come looking for me in the future. Despicable. A sound wave spread out from afar. Chinyu paused. Heaven seek, old demon. Heaven seek, pavilion, as he thought this matter was related to them. Chinyu looked up. As his eyes swept over that mass of black demonic energy, he stiffened. Without any reason, he knew that there was a pair of eyes within that mass of demonic energy that was also watching him. Was it coming for him? But what did he have that was worth heaven's seek, old demon going back on his word and recklessly attacking the gold, noble family? Qin Yu's thoughts raced. Then he heard heaven seek, old demon lightly say, "You and I should change places to fight. Otherwise, if there are a few more collisions, I'm afraid that your green cloud world will really be destroyed." Good. Beneath the golden light, anger soared to the heavens. The black and golden spheres of light sank into the shattered heavens, vanishing from sight. Hurry and activate the great array. Stabilize the space. We cannot allow anything to happen to the green cloud world. Attack with everything you have. Bang, bang, from various parts of the green cloud world. Beams of light appeared one after another, shooting into the heavens. They were like giant stone pillars that supported the collapsing heavens. These array formations held back the majority of the powerhouses of the gold, noble family, so they didn't have time to spare. Thus, when Chinyu arrived at the side hall, no one appeared to stop him. Shua, the demonic light, scattered. Following closely behind were Heaven Star Demon and Deep Blue. As their eyes fell on Chinyu, they didn't bother to conceal their hostility. "Fellow Taoist Qin, we meet again," Heaven Star Demon slowly said. Whoosh, Shuezheng, and High Deep Blue arrived. The corners of the latter's eyes twitched. He lowered his voice and roared, "Qin Yu!" Filled with resentment, Shuezheng cupped his hands together. "Greetings, Priest Qin Yu." He turned a blind eye to High Deep Blue's hatred. Eclipse Lenqing and Zhang Zhongxie were the last to arrive. "Brother Qin." Heaven Star Demon's eyes flashed. "I never thought that we would all be acquaintances. That makes things much easier." He swept his eyes around. "Now that the Gold Noble family is busy, we finally have a chance. How about we enter the hall first, and then compete for the treasures with our own methods?" Shuezheng frowned. "This is the Gold Noble family." Heaven Star Demon sneered. "So what? The Ning family old ancestor was led away by a mysterious powerhouse of my demonic path, and the other masters are stabilizing the world fragment. If we miss out on such a heaven-sent opportunity, we will surely regret it for the rest of our lives. You must know that riches and honor come from danger." He paused for a moment and then sneered. "Moreover, don't you too wish to heavily wound the gold, noble family? This world is too small. There isn't enough space for too many people." High Deep Blue shouted out loud, "Good, we agree." "Then let's do it, lest new problems crop up." Heaven Star Demon flicked his sleeves. Demonic energy tumbled and a diamond demon puppet appeared. It was 100 feet tall like a giant. It waved its fists and smashed into the shattered side hall. Bang! The diamond demon puppet was sent tumbling backwards. A deep cut appeared on its thick chest armor, tearing open terrifying cracks in the ground. But its defensive capabilities were clearly amazing. It wasn't heavily wounded at all. It shook its head and crawled back up. Wherever the fist fell, the cracks in the side hall became much larger. More golden light gushed out. It was clear that after that beam of light struck, the defensive strength of the side hall was also exhausted. Heaven Star Demon roared, "Attack together! Hurry up!" Qin Yu lifted a hand and thrust out his palm. As Eclipse Lenqing saw this, he frowned. He lifted his hand and punched out. Shuezheng didn't move, but the sound of roaring waves filled the air. The phantom of a sea beast appeared and rushed towards the side hall. The diamond demon puppet roared as it rushed forwards. Rumble, rumble. A corner of the side hall collapsed. Then the entire side hall was shattered by the raging strength that surged out from within. After that golden light was freed from its shackles, it wildly erupted like a volcano. At the same time, the temptation it gave off had increased exponentially at this moment. Everyone's eyes burned, revealing naked greed. Qin Yu frowned. His eyes fell on that golden light. It was indeed a peerless treasure that possessed an unimaginable strength. But it wasn't what he wanted. Whoosh! He rushed towards the side hall. Heaven-Star Demon sneered. Qin Yu, aren't you being too impatient? He lifted a hand, and a pitch-black demon hand appeared, grasping at his back. Qin Yu didn't turn around. With a flick of his sleeves, he pushed back the demon hand. He coldly said, I have no interest in this treasure. If you want it, then go ahead. His figure didn't stop. He rushed into a corner of the hall. There was a passage there that led to some unknown place. Heaven-Star Demon frowned. Could there be other important treasures in this side hall? This chapter is not yet finished. Please turn to the next page. But after a brief moment of hesitation, he suppressed these thoughts. A cold sneer flashed in his eyes. As long as he could take away the main body of the golden light, he could control the blue cloud world. At that time, he would be an invincible existence in this world fragment. Even if the Ning family old ancestor returned, he still might not be his match. So what if Qin Yu was strong? Even if he obtained some treasure, he would still be easily crushed to dregs. Demonic energy rose up. Heaven-Star Demon rushed towards the golden light. Eclipse Lenqing shouted out loud, Our battle will be today! Bang! The two nascent soul masters began to fight. Deep Blue turned around. He looked at the calm Xue Zheng and High Deep White with dread in his eyes and took several steps back. He wasn't a nascent soul, but if he went all out, he might still have the strength of a nascent soul. Strong winds blew against his face. Qin Yu stormed forwards in the tunnel. It was true that the golden light was a great treasure, but wanting to subdue it was extremely difficult. In fact, when Qin Yu approached it, his soul instinctively shivered. As for the little blue lamp, light flowed on its surface, as if it were eager to try. Qin Yu didn't want to complicate matters. What he wanted now was the method to break into nascent soul. As long as he could reach nascent soul, he would have the qualifications to wander this vast world with disdain. Treasures were good, but compared to this, they weren't anything at all. Qin Yu's heart became increasingly excited. He knew that he was getting closer and closer, but his eyes became increasingly calm. Finally, they were like calm water beneath ice without any ripples. As he neared the final moment, he should be even more cautious. But why was there such a burning heat in the depths of his heart? Why did inexplicable emotions tumble in his heart, as if they would gush out at any moment? When he reached the end of the tunnel, Qin Yu flew out. This was an underground palace that wasn't too large. It was completely empty, and there was only an innumerable number of runes on the ground. These runes seemed scattered and disorderly, but it was clear that they formed a great array formation. Even with Qin Yu's current eyesight, he couldn't tell just what it was used for. From this, one could see just how profound it was. But as he glanced over these runes, Qin Yu's eyes were drawn to the center of the underground palace, to the gray cage. There was a woman inside. Her body was slender and light, and just looking at her made one feel pity from the bottom of their hearts. At this time, she was sitting with her back to him, as if she were thinking about something. It was impossible to see her appearance, but with her jade-like ears, one couldn't help but wonder just what sort of beautiful face she was hiding. The dim light couldn't illuminate the entire underground palace, but Qin Yu's 5 senses had always far surpassed the ordinary. To him, this place was no different from daytime. He looked at the figure in the gray cage, his eyes widening as if he were seeing something unbelievable. As if she could hear the movements behind her, the woman lifted a hand to stroke her hair. She said in a soft voice, "Old Cloud, go and tell them that there is no need to be anxious. I will not agree. Qin Yu stiffened. A turbulent current tumbled in his heart, breaking through all of his composure and self-control. His eyes began to sting. This voice, it's her. She's alive, she's still alive. Qin Yu couldn't describe what he was feeling at this time. The dark hall in front of him suddenly became beautiful, and the originally gloomy flames seemed a bit warmer. He opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but he found it difficult to speak. The woman waited for a moment, but didn't obtain a response. She turned around. What kind of face was this? Even though it was slightly pale, it was still beautiful enough to make one feel ashamed of their inferiority. Then their gazes collided in the air. Her beautiful eyes widened, and she immediately stood up. Her body shivered as she stared at Qin Yu. There was a moment of silence. In the silence, there were only 2 gasps. The woman suddenly smiled, like the most beautiful flower in the world blooming. If you're breathing, then this isn't an illusion. Junior apprentice, Brother Qin Yu, I knew that you wouldn't die. Qin Yu seemed to come back to life. His stiff expression softened, and he took a deep breath. I never thought I would see Senior Apprentice, Sister Ning again. His voice was hoarse. The 2 looked at each other for several breaths of time and then laughed. Chapter 251. Ningling. She was Ningling, the woman he thought had died, the woman who had completely vanished from his life. She was alive. She was right in front of him. Qin Yu's heart was filled with indescribable excitement. His heart beat like a great drum. Junior Apprentice, Brother Qin, why are you here? Ningling asked in a soft voice. Qin Yu smiled. It's a long story, but Senior Apprentice Sister, how come you are locked up here? Ningling. Gold, noble family, she really was one of them. If so, then Qin Yu would have more scruples in his actions. He had to consider Ningling's feelings. Ningling's eyes darkened. She said in a soft voice, Junior Apprentice Brother Qin came from the outside, so you should know. They are preparing to marry me off because I no longer have any value to them. Within his sleeves, Qin Yu clenched his fists. Someone so important to him was actually being treated like this. He took a deep breath and strode forwards. Senior Apprentice Sister Ning, I will save you. Ningling hurriedly said, No, this cage is supported by a powerful array formation. Junior Apprentice, Brother Qin, hurry and leave. Don't worry about me. Qin Yu met her eyes and said, From today on, I will never abandon Senior Apprentice Sister again. Ningling's heart shook. She thought back to the time when she fled underground and the brilliant sunlight that sprinkled down from above her head. Some kind of deep emotion was rolling in the bottom of her heart, causing her mind to tremble. Senior Apprentice Sister, stand back, I am going to start. Qin Yu shouted out loud. His hands grasped the gray cage, and all of his strength erupted. Open for me. On the ground, the runes suddenly lit up. The array formation activated with it. Billowing gray energy surged out, turning into long whips that ruthlessly lashed at Qin Yu. Even with Qin Yu's current cultivation and powerful demon body, his defenses were instantly broken. Bloody whip marks appeared on his body and his face paled. But in his eyes there was no pain at all. There was only steadiness and firmness. Ningling was here. If he wanted to take her away and prevent her from being harmed again, no one could stop him from doing this. His aura rose up once more. His black hair flew upwards, and blue veins popped out on his hands. His body grew several inches. The power of the demon body had been stimulated to the limit. Pah! This was a whip condensed from gray energy that lashed out. In several breaths of time, Qin Yu's robes were torn to shreds, and blood dripped down from the torn corners of his robes. Ningling stared blankly at the man in front of her with a demonic aura. She could feel his determination and his willingness to risk everything as she watched him be wounded by the array formation. The roiling emotions were finally unable to be suppressed any longer, and they gushed out from the depths of his heart like a volcanic eruption, destroying all his worries and restraints. Qin Yu! Qin Yu! She threw herself in front of the cage and grabbed onto Qin Yu's hand. "I'll help you." The gray aura was like a sharp blade. In the blink of an eye, countless wounds appeared on her palm. Pale, golden blood flowed onto Qin Yu's hand, entering his body through the wound. It was like boiling oil had been poured into a raging fire. Qin Yu's eyes gradually turned red, and endless anger rose up in his chest, as well as a terrifying thought of destroying all. She was injured. Ningling was injured. "Ah, break for me!" Qin Yu crazily roared. With a grating creaking sound, the crazily revolving array formation on the ground suddenly slowed down. Then, the runes that formed the formation trembled slightly before exploding. Pain the blink of an eye, they connected together. The gray energy that surged on the surface of the cage immediately weakened. In the next moment, it loudly disintegrated, torn in half. The array formation came to a sudden stop, and all the runes collapsed. Qin Yu grabbed onto Ningling and anxiously asked, "Senior Apprentice Sister Ning, are you all right?" Looking at the man in front of her, bathed in blood, who was nervously asking her if she was all right, Ningling sniffled and her eyes became even gentler. "I'm fine." She bit her lips and grabbed onto Qin Yu's hand. "What about you? How are you feeling?" Feeling the warmth and strength of her hand, Qin Yu was startled. Then he brightly smiled. "Senior Apprentice Sister, don't worry, I'm fine. Let's leave first." He swept his eyes around the underground palace. He knew that the great Tao method to break into nascent soul was here, but he had already wasted a great deal of time saving Ningling. If he didn't leave now, there might be an accident. He couldn't take any more risks and place Ningling in a dangerous situation. The great Tao of nascent soul, even if he couldn't achieve it in the gold noble family. There were still other opportunities. Ningling blushed. The two of them still hadn't let go of each other. As they walked through the passage, Qin Yu had to admit that he felt a bit disappointed. After all, in order to enter the gold noble family, he had made far too many preparations and spent a great deal of effort. But he was even more overjoyed. Ningling hadn't died, and she was willing to leave with him. The faint affection in her eyes caused Qin Yu's heart to jump with joy. It had been a long, long time since he had such emotions. He subconsciously tightened his grip on Ningling's hand. After turning around the passage and returning to the main hall once more, Qin Yu suddenly frowned. The situation was different from what he imagined. Heaven Star Demon and Eclipse Lenqing were both pale, and there were traces of blood at the corners of their lips. Shuizhang had a grim expression, and there were tears in his robes. The three of them represented the demonic path, Immortal Eclipse Valley, and the sea region to come to the Blue Cloud world. If they said they didn't have any cards in their hands, he wouldn't believe them. But now, the three of them were clearly in a difficult situation, and the one facing them was actually Deep Blue. It was just that Deep Blue's current state was clearly abnormal. His eyes were blood red, and his pupils were gold. His pale face was fierce and twisted, filled with cruelty and cruelty. "Qin, you brought Ningling out." Deep Blue looked over and wildly laughed. Qin Yu, you never imagined that the one to obtain the supreme treasure today would be me. Deep Blue, in the sea region, you ruined my plans and caused me to suffer so much. Today, I will destroy your body and soul so that you will never be able to reincarnate." He lifted a hand and slapped out. Rich golden light erupted like a sun descending. The terrifying aura left one's mind trembling. This was the aura of that treasure. Qin Yu took a deep breath. Just as he was about to attack, within his Dantian Sea's great Tao base, the little blue lamp suddenly erupted with light. Today, the foot-long sea blue light had reached 2 feet, as deep as the deepest sea in the world. The golden light froze. Then, it drew back at an even faster speed. Deep Blue was enraged. "Kill him! Hurry and kill him!" His complexion paled even further, and his body began to rapidly wither away. His sunken eyes were filled with madness. Ning Ling glanced at Qin Yu and said in a soft voice, "He doesn't control the world treasure at all. It is the world treasure that is controlling him. He will soon have all his strength stolen away and then die." Qin Yu nodded. He looked at Eclipse, Len Qing, and Zhang Zhongxiu in the corner. "Brother Qin, hurry and leave. We are envoys of immortal Eclipse Valley. No matter how angry the Gold noble family is, they wouldn't dare to move against us." Zhang Zhongxiu clearly recognized Ningling. He looked deeply at her and urged her to leave. Qin Yu cupped his hands together. "We will leave first." He brought Ningling with him and strode away. Deep Blue howled, "Qin Yu, don't go. I will kill you, I will kill you." His body twitched. In just a short period of time, he had become as thin as a skeleton. He reached out his arms to grab at Qin Yu, but no matter how he struggled, the terrifying strength mercilessly plundered him. Everyone knew that he was about to die. Hai, Deep White, stubbornly stared at Qin Yu's back. Within his sleeves, he grasped a shell that was shrouded in black energy. From time to time, fierce ghost faces would appear. A cold light erupted from the depths of his eyes. Just as he was about to crush the shell, the sound of wind rose up in his ears. His eyes rolled back and he slumped to the ground. Shui Zhang drew back his hand and met Qin Yu's gaze. "I have a little brother who once received the grace of Qin Yu's sacrifice. That is how he was able to break into nascent soul." This was an explanation, but it wasn't important. Qin Yu smiled. "We will meet again." He and Ning Ling shot into the skies. In the blue cloud world, the skies were covered with cracks. Beams of light shot into the skies. Qin Yu swept his eyes around and frowned. Ning Ling said, "I know that there is another exit to the blue cloud world." Qin Yu turned. "Show me the way." He held onto Ning Ling. Blood red flames ignited and his speed rose 10 times over. He was like a burning meteor that howled into the distance. "It's over there. There is a transmission array in the mountain valley." Ning Ling leaned close to Qin Yu and whispered, her face like a sunset glow. Suddenly, 3 tyrannical auras erupted from the mountain valley. "Today, no one can think of leaving the blue cloud world." With an old voice, 3 figures stepped out. They all wore brown robes, and their hair was combed into a simple crown. Their wrinkled faces were solemn and dignified. Boundless auras surged out from their bodies like raging rivers, sweeping out in all directions. Guardian Elder. Ning Ling's complexion changed. At this time, the 3 people on the other side also looked over. Evil Woman. The tall and thin old man in the middle coldly said, "You actually dare to collude with outsiders to harm your clan." Ning Ling paled. She looked up and said, "I didn't. The facts are before you, and you still dare to quibble." The tall and thin old man's voice was harsh. "Today, I will capture you and punish you according to the clan rules." Ning Ling's eyes turned red. "It was the clan that abandoned me." "Shut up. The fact that you were able to live until now is already the mercy of the clan. Even if you were to die, that is also the right thing to do." Qin Yu sneered. "Where did these 3 old dogs come from? Their barking is annoying. Senior Apprentice Sister Ning, why bother with them? Just wait for me to send them away." The tall and thin old man was enraged. "How insolent! Since you dare to intrude into my Ning family, I will kill you first." He lifted a hand and a terrifying aura surged out. At this time, Qin Yu's complexion changed. He didn't look at the 3 people in front of him and instead turned around. In the distant skies, in the darkness formed by the collapse of space, a figure stepped out. No matter how amazing his eyesight was, he could only see an incomparably small black dot. But the aura he emitted caused Qin Yu's heart to shrink and endless danger to rise within him. The Ning family old ancestor. He had returned. Qin Yu held onto Ningling. He stepped forwards and rushed into the mountain valley. "Junior, you are seeking death." The tall and thin old man's palm came crashing down, but in the next moment his body stiffened and the terrifying aura around him scattered. At the same time, the faces of the other two people beside the tall and thin old man twisted. Blood seeped out from the corners of their eyes, noses, and mouths. Qin Yu flicked his sleeves. The power of the void roared out, and the three people were sent flying away. Ningling's eyes widened. Junior apprentice Brother Qin Yu's soul was actually tyrannical to the point of being able to roll over the three guardian elders. Qin Yu flew into the mountain valley. Without hesitation, he released Ningling and shouted out, "Senior apprentice sister, hurry and open the transmission array." Ningling regained her composure and quickly nodded. She didn't know what was happening, but looking at Qin Yu's expression, she could tell that this was an urgent matter. She nodded and hurried forwards, but at this time her body froze. The air seemed to freeze over. Chapter 252. Genius 1, Second, Remember Love, Go Away. This is the web that provides you with wonderful novels to read. He wasn't tall, nor was he short. He wore a wide blue robe, and his appearance was ordinary. Only his eyes were a bit brighter. He couldn't be any more ordinary. But as they approached him, they were instantly stripped away and swallowed up. It was like they were facing a mountain, their hearts heavy and their breathing difficult. This was the Ning family old ancestor. Ningling's face was drained of blood. She hurriedly said, "Old ancestor, today's matter has nothing to do with him. I beg you to let him leave. This disciple is willing to accept any punishment." The Ning family old ancestors' eyes were ice cold. "Evil girl, today you colluded with outsiders to ruin the peace of my blue cloud world. You have committed an unforgivable crime." He waved his sleeves. "See through the shattering vault of heaven. Countless bloodlines of my clan have died today. Do you think a few words from you can erase all of that?" Ningling clenched her teeth. "Old ancestor, I agree to marry you. I beg you to spare him." The Ning family old ancestors' eyes flashed. "Really? This disciple swears. Good. But while he can avoid death, he cannot escape punishment. I will cripple his cultivation and drive him out of the blue cloud world." Ningling's eyes widened. She fell to her knees. "I beg the old ancestor to show mercy." To Qin Yu, losing his cultivation was no different from death. The Ning family old ancestor had no expression. "This is my bottom line. There is no need to say anything more." Qin Yu lowered his head. A smile lifted the corners of his lips. He said in a soft voice, "Senior apprentice Sister Ning, you and I have just met, so there are some things we haven't talked about yet. Yes, in this world there are indeed people with unrivaled pressure and unrivaled strength. But even so, that doesn't mean they don't have weaknesses. For instance, not too long ago in the Sea region, I killed an extremely fierce opponent known as the Whale Sovereign." He looked up, his eyes calm and steady. He pulled Ningling up. "So now is not the time to despair. Perhaps if I go all out, I will be able to add another dazzling name to my battle record." The Ning family old ancestor frowned. He looked up and suddenly said, "Qin Yu?" Qin Yu smiled and cupped his hands together. The Ning family is truly worthy of being called the Gold Noble Family. The Ning family old ancestor was silent for a moment. He shook his head. "Even if you really are Qin Yu, I don't believe that you can kill the Whale Sovereign with your strength." Qin Yu sighed inwardly. Sure enough, these people were old and cunning. They couldn't be scared away with just a few words. If he wanted to escape today, he would have to go all out. But he didn't reveal any of it on his face. The corners of his mouth curled up. "Is that so? Since Senior doesn't believe me, you can try. Senior apprentice Sister Ning, go and activate the transmission array. We'll be leaving soon." Ningling's eyes widened, as if this was her first time seeing him. It had to be known that the person in front of her was the Ning family old ancestor, one of the few peak existences in the world. His strength was transcendent. He was actually so calm, facing it head-on without fear, not mentioning anything else. Just this boldness alone was enough to shock everyone. Junior brother Qin, be careful. Since Qin Yu wanted to put everything on the line, she would cooperate with him with all her strength. Perhaps there was hope with her back facing Qin Yu. Ningling revealed a helpless smile. This hope was far too slim. If she couldn't escape today's great calamity, then she would die together with junior apprentice brother Qin Yu. The Ning family old ancestor didn't stop Ningling. He looked at Qin Yu and lifted a hand. There were no words, no preparations. Those in a higher position always believed in strength. What they could do, they wouldn't say. As his palm fell, winds and clouds rose up. Loud roars filled the air and space twisted. A light palm seal appeared in this distorted space, falling towards Qin Yu's face. Qin Yu's heart shrank, turning as stiff as stone, no longer able to beat. His soul shivered, instinctively giving birth to a great fear. It was like the world was collapsing and a great calamity was about to befall him. The Ning family old ancestor already stood at the threshold of divine soul. Even a casual strike of his had the power to split apart mountains and rivers. It was more than enough to easily kill a nascent soul. Qin Yu knew that he had to block this palm first. Only then could he obtain the qualifications to negotiate with the Ning family old ancestor. Otherwise, no matter how good his hand was, if his blood was too thin and he was instantly defeated, all he could do was eat his dust. He took a deep breath. Within his Dantian Sea, the 5-element golden cores began to rapidly spin. White, black, blue, red, and yellow, the colors of 5 wildly revolved, fusing together and forming a circle. The 5 elements mutually reinforced and restrained each other. They could display a thunderous strike, their might boundless and irresistible. At the same time, they could transform into the world's strongest defensive strength. The palm seal fell. Several inches away from Qin Yu, space began to tremble. Small, rapid, and high-frequency fluctuations spread out. In this extremely narrow range, it was like a raging sea, a heaven-destroying and earth-shattering aura wildly rampaging about. With a stuffy cough, blood flowed out from Qin Yu's mouth and nose. But the Ning family old ancestor's attack was blocked. His eyes suddenly brightened, like 2 stars in the dark skies of a winter night. He lifted a hand and pointed a finger. In the blue cloud world, the skies suddenly darkened, as if a layer of gray gauze had covered the world. A cold and gloomy aura appeared out of nowhere, like invisible thorns piercing into the heart. Between the heavens and earth, blurry phantoms of faces appeared. They turned around at the same time, looking towards where Qin Yu was. Then they turned into countless flows of gray energy that rapidly gathered. Then that finger that pointed out turned black, as if it had been soaked in ink for countless years. The violent killing intent was like a violent storm, arriving in an instant. Hum! The pitch-black finger trembled and then vanished from sight. When it reappeared, it was in front of the Ning family old ancestor, pressing down between his eyebrows. The second of the azure touch. Blue spirit finger. For the first time, the Ning family old ancestor revealed a dignified expression. There was shock in his eyes, but it wasn't too great. The point between his eyebrows suddenly shined and a rune appeared. A beam of light shot into the air, expanding into the shape of a shield. As the blue spirit finger fell, the rune fiercely trembled and dimmed a bit. The Ning family old ancestor's expression remained calm, but there was a bit more weariness in his eyes. Soul slaughter art. I never thought that with your cultivation and age, you would be able to control such a strength. Qin Yu, I am beginning to believe that you have a chance of killing the whale sovereign, but I am stronger than he is. And I also have some methods to deal with soul slaughter arts. So if this is all you have, you will still die. Qin Yu lightly said, Is that so? He raised his hands, and his robes fluttered without wind. An aura that made one's heart race surged out from his body. Within his soul space, Spirity had a heavy expression. Gray flames began to emit from the surface of her body. She lowered her head and muttered to herself. Although it wasn't clear what she was saying, one could feel her resentment and helplessness. After waiting for countless years and paying a heavy price, she had finally obtained a new life. Was she going to die like this? Just thinking about it made her feel unwilling. Unfortunately, the decision wasn't in her hands. The Ning family old ancestor frowned. His pupils shrank as he stared at Chinyu. Soul-perishing art? I never thought you would have grasped a method to perish together with me. But with the strength of your soul, even if you self-destruct, the most you will be able to do is wound me. Chinyu shouted out, "Then take another look." Whew! Strong winds rose up, lifting up his black robes. The Ning family old ancestor stiffened and his complexion paled. He could sense that the terrifying aura Chinyu emitted had doubled in strength. Even with his cultivation, he couldn't help but feel his heart skip a beat. Bastard! Where did this brat get so many methods? Soul-perishing art. By sacrificing one's own soul, one can obtain a formidable killing strength. Once one uses it, they will completely dissipate, unable to enter samsara. Chinyu interrupted. I know. He looked up, a crazed look in his eyes. In this world, we must seize every moment we have. How can we worry about so many things? Since I am going to die today, I might as well drag someone down with me so that I won't be lonely on the road to the Yellow Springs. The Ning family old ancestor coldly said, with the soul-perishing art, you will not be able to enter the Yellow Springs. Then I ask Senior to go alone. Chinyu stepped forward. He lifted a hand, a terrifying aura lingering around him. I know that Senior is stalling for time. Perhaps you have a way to avoid this strike, but I will not give you the chance. Please die. His fingers moved and then fell. The Ning family old ancestor's mind fiercely shook. He finally couldn't hold himself back any longer. He shouted out, "Stop!" He coldly stared at Chinyu. He took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in his heart. Even though he knew that this brat was deliberately trying to scare him, he didn't dare to take the risk. What if he really did attack? He had lived for a long time, but he still hadn't lived enough. He was even considering how to live longer. How could such a Ning family old ancestor be willing to perish together with Chinyu? Chinyu's fingers stopped, but they didn't fall. He looked straight ahead. The Ning family old ancestor took a deep breath. Leave. Don't let me see you again in the future. Otherwise, I will immediately erase you. Chinyu cupped his hands together. Thank you, Senior. His second sentence was, I ask Senior to make an oath. The Ning family old ancestor clenched his teeth. I swear that I will let Chinyu and Chinyu leave. If I violate this oath, I will never be able to reach divine soul for the rest of my life. Shwa! Chinyu turned and walked away. Deep in the mountain valley, the array formation embedded in the ground was already in an active state. Ning Ling stood at the side, her complexion pale. Just now, although she hadn't personally witnessed the might of the Ning family old ancestor strike, at such a close distance, she could still feel it. That monstrous strength was like 1,000,000 mountains falling down. Could Chinyu really resist it? Outside, there hadn't been any sound for a long time. Could it be? Ning Ling's heart tightened. She felt waves of pain. She took a deep breath, and light flashed around her as she prepared to fly out. The transmission array had already opened. If she stepped in, there was a high chance she would be able to escape from the blue cloud world. But with Chinyu behind her, she couldn't leave by herself. Since this was the case, she would do as she thought before and die together with him. Pa! The sound of footsteps entered her ears. Ning Ling stiffened. She looked up to see Chinyu's pale face. He glanced at Ning Ling, who was about to fly out, and then at the shining transmission array on the ground. His heart warmed, and he revealed a smile. I've made senior apprentice sister worry. Chinyu! Ning Ling rushed over. When she arrived in front of him, she came to an awkward stop. The joy in her eyes was bright and enchanting. Qin Yu couldn't help but reach out and gently hug her. As Ning Ling stiffened, he let go as if nothing had happened. He said, "Let's go." Ning Ling lowered her head. She nodded and allowed him to grab her hand as they stepped into the transmission array. At this time, her mind was in chaos. She actually forgot to ask why the old ancestor had let them leave. The transmission array lit up. After a dazzling flash of light, the two figures twisted and vanished from sight. The Ning family old ancestor stepped forwards. He stood outside the empty transmission array, his face cloudy for a long time. Finally, he sighed. Perhaps this is the best result. Chapter 253. Genius 1. Second, remember if you want to go? Sure, Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Severed Spirit Mountain. Shrouded in clouds and mist, the valley was tranquil. Love, go, small, say, Netka sunlight sprinkled down, and the radiant red would shine brightly. The entire valley was covered in a layer of red light. Its branches and leaves gently swayed back and forth, stirring up the spiritual strength of heaven and earth. It emitted a soft, rustling sound, like the sound of flowing water. The spirit plants in the valley grew exceptionally luxuriant under such a rich environment of heaven and earth spirit energy. Their fine green leaves were tender and glistening. In the empty space, other than the original wooden house, a new one had been built. There was also the smell of fresh wood in the air. However, for some reason, the entire valley seemed to be filled with warmth with the addition of this wooden hut. Creak! The newly built cabin opened from within, and Ning Ling stepped out. She took a deep breath and stretched her waist, a light smile on her lips. It had been a long time since he had this kind of peaceful life. It would be great if he could stay here forever. Ning Ling's eyes widened. It was unknown what she was thinking, but she hesitated and felt a bit guilty. She forced out a smile. There was the sound of a door opening behind her. She gathered her thoughts and turned around. Qin Yu stepped out, a faint smile on his face. That smile seemed to have the strength to warm her heart, making her mood much better. Junior apprentice Brother Ning, how are your injuries? Qin Yu walked over and smiled. I'm fine now. The two of them fell silent. The atmosphere was not awkward. Instead, there was an incomparably harmonious feeling. Senior Sister Ning, Junior Brother Qin, the two of them spoke at the same time. They looked at each other and laughed again. Qin Yu was the first to speak. I thought I would never see Senior Apprentice Sister again in this life. Ning Ling nodded. Me too. She bit her lip and said seriously, Junior Brother Qin, I really have to thank you. Otherwise, I'm afraid I would already be dead. Not only had Qin Yu saved her, but he had also given up his life as the price. When he made that decision, he had already been prepared to face death. It's all in the past. Senior Apprentice, Sister Ning, doesn't need to worry about it. We're both alive now, aren't we? Qin Yu smiled. Ning Ling opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but in the end she didn't say anything. She raised her hand and ran her fingers through her hair. Since Junior Brother Qin doesn't want me to say it, then let me cook a meal to express my sincerity. Qin Yu was surprised. Senior Apprentice Sister Ning can cook? Ning Ling blushed. I know a bit. Qin Yu tactfully didn't ask any more questions. His face filled with anticipation. I will go arrange the tables and chairs, and also prepare some materials. Senior Apprentice Sister Ning will be able to show off her skills. Ning Ling shook her head. After you arrange the tables and chairs, just sit there and wait for me. Leave the materials to me. Qin Yu hesitated. This, Ning Ling blinked her eyes. The surrounding 300 miles is a forbidden zone. I can see it. With Junior Apprentice Brother Qin's cultivation, there shouldn't be anyone that dares to break in. I will return soon. Qin Yu revealed an awkward expression. He never thought that she would see the stone tablet he had erected in the past. He self-deprecatingly said, "I've made senior apprentice Sister Ning laugh at me. I'll be waiting." Ningling left with a faint smile. She stepped on the ground and flew into the fog, floating beneath the sunlight like a fairy. Fortunately, after a while, she returned with some simple wild vegetables, a pheasant, and a hare. Qin Yu relaxed. He began to prepare the tables and chairs. This was actually quite simple. All he needed to do was cut down a large tree and carve it into shape. As he was doing this, the chicken overlord stood to the side. Its small eyes stared at Qin Yu with resentment, as if it were unhappy that Ningling had caught one of its descendants. Of course, all of this was ignored by Qin Yu. He lowered his head to work, occasionally turning his head to look at Ningling. As the chicken overlord saw this, it couldn't help but roll its eyes several times and curse at Qin Yu for forgetting his friends in the face of love. After the tables and chairs were finished, Qin Yu sat down. He sniffed the air, a strange expression on his face. But when Ningling walked out, he immediately composed himself, and a look of anticipation appeared on his face. Ningling had a bashful expression. She whispered, I've seen others do this before. It's my first time, so I'm not too familiar with it. Don't laugh at me." Qin Yu shook his head again and again. I won't. The dishes were placed on the table. Well, if this could be called dishes. The dark vegetables were unknown, just what sort of calamity they had experienced in order to appear in such a pitiful state. They were hard and black. It was unknown whether they were pheasants or hares. There was also a crisp and tender cold dish. It looked good, or at least it looked good. Finally, there was a pot of soup. The pot was very good. The porcelain was like jade, and the surface was painted with willows. The scenery of the lake was beautiful, but the soup inside wasn't so beautiful. It was cloudy, and there were several vegetable leaves floating on the surface. As the heat spread out, a fragrance wafted out. Qin Yu's expression was solemn. His eyes were calm and solemn. He first expressed his thanks. Then he picked up a pair of chopsticks and picked up a bit of each of the 3 dishes. Crunch, crunch, Ningling blushed. She could see that he was calmly eating, but she also had some expectations in her heart. She tasted a bit and her face twisted. She spat it out. Her eyes widened. She hurriedly said, "Junior apprentice, Brother Qin, stop eating. I never thought it would be so disgusting. You don't need to care about my face. Hurry and stop." Qin Yu smiled. He picked up another piece of hard jerky and chewed it up in his mouth. "I don't think so. I think it's delicious." Ningling reached out to grab his chopsticks. Qin Yu didn't dodge. He looked into her eyes. "Ever since I left Auntie Gu when I was a child, there hasn't been anyone who has tried so hard to cook for me. What I'm eating isn't the taste, but what's in these dishes." His voice was calm, like a warm current flowing into her heart. Ningling thought for a moment and let go. She smiled and said, "Junior apprentice Brother Qin's words are so pleasant to hear. Then eat it all. I didn't plan on keeping it to begin with." Ningling smiled. Her eyes drooped, concealing all the emotions in them. When she was young, her mother had told her that if she met someone she liked, she had to personally cook a table full of food for him. To sit quietly and watch him finish eating was the happiest thing in the world. When Qin Yu finished the last mouthful of soup, he patted his belly and sighed in satisfaction. "It's been a long time since I've eaten so happily." Ningling passed him a handkerchief. "Wipe your mouth. It's all burnt black." Qin Yu smiled. After wiping his mouth a few times, he put away the handkerchief. "I'll wash it clean and return it to Senior Apprentice Sister." Ningling's eyes widened. Then she smiled. She looked at Qin Yu as if she had made some sort of decision. "Junior Apprentice, Brother Qin, why did you go to the Ning family?" Qin Yu smiled. "It was just a minor matter." Ningling fell silent. Breaking into nascent soul is a minor matter? Qin Yu revealed a surprised expression. Ningling said in a soft voice, "When you saved me, I was aware of the aura you revealed. Junior apprentice Brother Qin, you cultivate the demon body. With its tyrannical attribute, it will be incomparably difficult for you to break into nascent soul. Qin, you bitterly smiled. I didn't mean to hide it from senior apprentice sister. Since Ningling knew, he no longer hid it. He told her about how he obtained the news from Heaven's Seek Pavilion and how he entered the gold, noble family. Ningling's eyes brightened. Junior apprentice brother makes it sound simple, but in order to enter the Ning family, you spent a great deal of time and effort. In the end, you returned empty-handed. Don't you think it's a pity? Qin Yu shook his head. I was a little disappointed, but even if I had to do it all over again, I would still do the same thing. Compared to reaching nascent soul, you are far more important. Although he didn't say it, Ningling knew. Her face blushed red. After a long period of silence, she said, Junior apprentice brother, aren't you curious as to why the Ning family called me a wicked daughter? She glanced at Qin Yu and continued to speak. The Ning family's bloodline didn't live here before. They lived in an even vaster world. Because of a woman in their family, she developed feelings for a man who was their mortal enemy. Finally, because of a series of events, that man died and the consequences were extremely serious. Thus, they were exiled here. That woman was my mother and that man was my father. So, when they called me a wicked daughter, I had no way to refute that. Moreover, within my body, there are two strengths that cannot be fused together. Ningling lifted her hand. Golden light circulated around her left hand, but her right hand was pitch black, open and above board, vast and boundless and gloomy and icy cold, fierce and cruel. These were two completely different auras. At this time, they appeared on her body. Faint markings started from her left and right hands, spreading throughout her body. They were respectively pale gold and pitch black, each occupying half of Ningling's body, dignified and cold. Her eyebrows furrowed together, and she shivered as if she were enduring pain. These are the two different bloodlines in my body. They give me strength, but they also give me pain, and they also make my life a tragedy. Junior apprentice Brother Qin, I hope that you can help me take away the demonic bloodline in my body so that I can rid myself of the bad luck it brings. Without needing Ningling to speak, Qin Yu could already feel his mortal body crazily yearning. Every inch of his flesh and blood was roaring, wanting him to swallow the cruel, demonic bloodline in Ningling's body. In fact, he even had a clear intuition that once he finished swallowing it, his demon body would make a breakthrough. At that time, Qin Yu's great road to nascent soul would be smooth and unobstructed, without any obstacles. This yearning was so intense that blood vessels began to appear in his eyes. They were like a net that tightened and tightened around his heart. And most importantly, his heart was beating with unprecedented intensity. This tightening and throbbing collided, creating an unbearable pain that struck straight into his soul. This was a collision of reason and instinct. Qin Yu took a deep breath. He slowly said, Senior apprentice Sister Ning, don't lie to me. If I take away the demonic bloodline from your body, will it be harmful? Ningling smiled, gentle and gentle. Even the pain on her face was washed away by a great deal. She looked at Qin Yu. She was well aware of what sort of torment he would have to endure when facing the aura of her bloodline when making a breakthrough. In this state, the first thing Qin Yu thought of was her safety. How could one not be moved by the depth of his heart? Junior apprentice brother, don't worry. To you, the demonic bloodline is the key to making a breakthrough to the demon body. But to me, it will only bring harm and suffering. If I give it to you, I can obtain a new life. The pure bloodline of God will make me even more formidable. So, there is no need for you to have any scruples. This is a good thing for both of us. Qin Yu earnestly looked at her. After several breaths of time, he determined that she wasn't saying this on purpose. All right, I agree. Ningling laid down her hands, restraining the aura of divinity and demonic. I will make some preparations. 2 days from now, extract the demonic bloodline from my body." It was unknown what she was thinking, but her face blushed red. She stood up and quickly left. Chapter 254. Qin Yu was dazed for a long time before he chuckled. He originally thought that his greatest harvest from this trip to the gold noble family was rescuing Ningling, but he never imagined that even the problem of breaking into Nascent Soul would be solved. Perhaps Ningling was the turning point that Heaven's Seek Pavilion spoke of that would help him break into Nascent Soul. As expected, the omniscient reputation wasn't just empty words. Finding Ningling and breaking into Nascent Soul could be called double happiness. Either one was enough to make Qin Yu laugh heartily. Once he reached Nascent Soul, no matter how large the world was, there would be no one that could control his life or death. At that time, he could wander the world with Ningling and perceive the great Tao together. Just thinking about it left him fascinated. Perhaps it was because she hadn't thought things through, or because her mind was in a mess. But when Ningling came out the next day, she asked Qin Yu to look for some materials he needed to extract her bloodline. She left behind a list and then hurried away. Qin Yu rubbed his chin. He always felt that she was a bit strange. Although she pretended to be calm, there was panic, nervousness, and also shyness in her eyes. Inexplicably, Qin Yu looked forward to extracting her bloodline, and his mood improved. He glanced over the list of materials in the jade slip. There weren't anything too rare, just some random items. If he were to collect them himself, it would take some time. Qin Yu thought for a moment and spoke to Ningling through the door. Then, with a flash of light, he flew out from the mountain valley. Today's severed spirit mountain was no longer as withered as it was in the past. The heaven and earth spiritual strength became increasingly rich, and it had become a famous cultivation treasure land for thousands of miles. Some wandering cultivators rushed over and built huts. There were also cultivator families of various sizes. Not long ago, there were even 2 small sects from the Southern Empire that entered Severed Spirit Mountain. Although the large-scale construction disturbed the tranquility, Severed Spirit Mountain was still lively and filled with more people. Where there were people, there were rivers and lakes. But the rivers and lakes were too general and couldn't be touched. Thus, the rapidly growing small trading markets became the best manifestation of the rivers and lakes. Cultivators communicated, exchanging treasures, buying goods, and even killing each other. In short, although this place was small, it still contained all sorts of things. However, all of this excitement avoided the area of Severed Spirit Mountain that was the richest in spiritual energy. Because no one knew the name of the master, it was called the cave dwelling of the 100-Mile ruler. No one had ever personally witnessed the 100-Mile Lord fight. However, there were countless legends about him that circulated throughout Severed Spirit Mountain. Either it was true or it was absurd, but no matter which version it was very clear how powerful the 100-Mile Lord was. Legend had it that he could shatter a mountain with a single palm. Legend had it that he could sever a long river with a single finger. It was said that he could kill people with just a stare. There were so many mysteries that there were only a few who completely believed them, and even fewer who didn't. Everyone held an indescribable awe in their hearts. However, as time passed and no one saw any movement from the 100-Kilometer Lord, some of the more capable individuals began to have other ideas. For instance, the Supremacy Grandmaster who had recently entered Severed Spirit Mountain and defeated 17 opponents in a row within 3 months. Of course, no matter how resounding this name was, the Supremacy sect had only been established 3 or 4 years ago. Even counting the cats and dogs under them, there were barely 100 people. The sect master came from a wandering cultivator background, and it was unknown where he had learned supernatural fist arts. With a single move, he could shake mountains. Thus, he was known as the Supremacy Sage. This was the origin of the Supremacy sect. Everyone, have you all heard? The Supremacy Sage has already declared that he wants the 100-Mile Lord to give up his cave dwelling and use it as a foothold for his sect. Of course I've heard of such explosive news. The Supremacy Sage has set up a 10-day arena and challenged the 100-Mile Lord to a fight. He is filled with confidence. Not too long ago, when West Ridge, Loose Cultivator, and the Supremacy Sage fought, I inadvertently saw the Supremacy Sage attack. His fist potential was as heavy as a mountain, unstoppable. 10 days have passed, and the final day is approaching. The 100-Mile Lord still hasn't shown up, perhaps because he fears the Supremacy Sage. If the Supremacy Sage can seize the cave dwelling, he will truly be able to flourish and become the foundation of a great sect. His future prospects will be bright. As the discussion spread into Qin Yu's ears, he finally understood why this place was so lively. It was because of the arena that the Supremacy Sage had set up. The 100-Mile Lord, this name was quite resounding. But who the hell was the Supremacy Sage? He actually dared to jump up and down Severed Spirit Mountain? Qin Yu smiled and drank the tea in his cup. He was originally thinking about how to act, but now he didn't need to go through all that trouble. His thoughts raced, and he soon came up with a plan. He stood up and cupped his hands together. Everyone, I have obtained some news that the 100-Mile Lord will show up today. I fear that there will be a great battle on the 10-day arena, so I hope that no one misses it. After he finished speaking, he ignored everyone's questions and walked downstairs. The tea house was quiet for a moment before it exploded with a loud bang. Countless cultivators revealed excited expressions. There was no benefit to this sort of matter, so there shouldn't be anyone that would dare to speak nonsense and tease them, unless they didn't plan on mingling around Severed Spirit Mountain in the future. The illustrious 100-Mile Lord was someone that no one had ever seen before. Today, he was finally going to make a move. Some people sneered, thinking that the Supremacy Sage was doomed this time. There were also some people who thought that this 100-Mile Lord didn't live up to his name. Otherwise, when the 10-day arena was set up, he would have directly rolled over the Supremacy Sage and not dragged things out to the final moment. But no matter what they thought, a great commotion was inevitable. News spread out from the tea house at an astonishing speed. Soon, the entire Severed Spirit Mountain was stirred up. The 100-Mile Lord versus the Supremacy Sage. Today's battle would decide who would have the highest authority in Severed Spirit Mountain for a long time to come. This involved their own future interests, so everyone was naturally concerned. Surging streams of people gathered from all directions, rushing towards the arena. The 10-day arena wasn't too far away from the Supremacy Sage's entrance. It was made from a large boulder that was several dozen feet wide. The Supremacy Sage wore loose robes, and his eyes were closed. His hair and beard fluttered in the mountain winds, making him seem a bit like a master. A disciple quickly walked over and whispered a few words into his ear. The Supremacy Sage opened his eyes, a look of contempt on his face. I thought he was going to be a turtle hiding in its shell, but I never thought that on the final day he would dare to jump out and fight with me. In his opinion, the so-called 100-Mile Lord was only trying to save some face. If a cultivator's skills were inferior to others, then, although it would be shameful to lose his cave dwelling, it was still better than losing his reputation because he was afraid to fight. The disciple flattered. With teacher here, even if that 100-Mile Lord comes, he can only be stepped on by you and become a stepping stone for the rise of my Supremacy sect. The Supremacy Sage smiled. Since everyone has gathered here today, I will take this opportunity to establish my prestige and establish an unshakable foundation for my Supremacy sect. In the future, I will be able to dominate everyone. Qin Yu walked through the stream of people. Without even asking, he soon arrived at the side of the arena. He glanced at the Supremacy Sage who was sitting cross-legged and shook his head. An early golden core cultivation. He was a bit stronger, but at most he was at the 4th or 5th level. To the current him, he was far too weak. To the side, a cultivator had a face full of awe and worship as he looked at the Supremacy Sage. When he saw Qin Yu shake his head, his complexion immediately darkened. You brat, where did you come from? You actually dare to disrespect the Supremacy Sage. His voice wasn't quiet, and it immediately attracted a great deal of attention. Qin Yu turned around. I only shook my head. How was that disrespectful? The young cultivator saw everyone's attention on him. In the distance, there were even disciples of the supremacy sect looking over. He thought that this was a heaven-sent opportunity. If he performed well today, would he need to worry about not being able to join the supremacy sect? He immediately took a deep breath and shouted out, You shook your head with contempt and disdain in your eyes. Did you think I couldn't see you? Just what sort of character is the supremacy sage? He is a powerhouse that has established his own sect. So how could he allow you to show the slightest bit of disrespect? His voice was powerful and sonorous. Everyone felt awe in their hearts. To be able to flatter someone to such a degree was truly a talent. Someone cried out in alarm. Isn't that the cultivator in the tea house who said that the 100-mile ruler would be coming? Aya, now that you mention it, it really is him. If he dares to disrespect the supremacy sage, could he be a subordinate of the 100-mile ruler? The crowd immediately became lively. If this person really was a subordinate of the 100-mile ruler, then today's slaughter was already set in stone. The disciples of the supremacy sect soon arrived. The one leading them was a tall and strong man. He wore dark brown robes as he walked with the wind in his eyes. He looked down at Qin Yu from above. Brat, are you a subordinate of the 100-mile ruler? Qin Yu thought for a moment. He smiled and nodded. That's not wrong. Everyone was in an uproar. They were both excited and also admired his courage. Facing the people of the supremacy sect, he was still able to remain so calm. Disregarding everything else, his courage wasn't small at all. The muscular man sneered. Where is your master? Could it be that he was scared out of his wits and sent you here to investigate? Let me tell you, my master is on the stage. If the 100-mile ruler dares to come here, he will surely explode with a single punch. Qin Yu smiled. If you want to fight with the 100-mile ruler, you will have to pass through me first. He stepped forwards. The muscular man was enraged. You think someone like you is worthy of disturbing my master? Kneel down. A large hand came pressing down like a fan. Bang! With a dull thud, the muscular man was sent flying backwards, smashing into a group of people. His face was covered in dust, and he cried out in anger, but he wasn't injured at all. The complexions of the supremacy sect disciples changed. Their powerful elder senior apprentice brother hadn't even been able to clearly see what had happened before he had been sent flying backwards. This person was too strange. The surrounding people revealed looks of awe. No wonder he was so calm. It was because he had cards up his sleeves. Disregarding everything else, just this cultivation alone was enough to rank high in Severed Spirit Mountain. However, this person looked unfamiliar. How come they hadn't seen him before? Qin Yu continued forwards. As the supremacy sect disciples were caught in a dilemma, a voice echoed out from the arena. Draw back and allow this fellow Taoist to come up. The supremacy sect disciples hurriedly moved aside as if they had been granted amnesty. Qin Yu smiled. He stepped onto the arena stage. The supremacy sage had already stood up. He was tall and strong, and his eyes were bright and piercing. He had an imposing aura about him. How should I address you? Qin Yu waved his hand. I still have business to attend to, so let's not waste any more time. If you want to fight, then hurry up. Just how rampant were these words? It was simply a slap to the face. The supremacy sage's complexion darkened. Good. Then let this old man experience your cultivation. He waved his arm and a fist came crashing down. It whistled through the air, its momentum astonishing. Beneath the arena stage, many cultivators cried out in alarm. They thought that the supremacy sage was truly formidable, and their eyes were filled with awe. Qin Yu's eyes lit up with a smile. This fellow was actually quite smart. Perhaps because he felt that his opponent wasn't easy to deal with, he had used his full strength. But to him, a golden core level opponent wasn't a threat at all. Bang! With another dull thud, the eyes of all the cultivators on Severed Spirit Mountain suddenly widened. They saw that above their heads, the Supremacy Sage was sent tumbling away. His body curved in a smooth curve, no different from the Supremacy Sect disciple from before. "Ah, teacher! Hurry and catch teacher!" With loud shouts and shouts, the Supremacy Sect disciples all reached out their hands. Then, with a loud cry, gourds tumbled all over the ground. The surrounding cultivators hurriedly drew back, afraid that they would be implicated. There were some sharp-eyed cultivators who soon discovered that when the Supremacy Sage and his group fell to the ground, there were countless tiny cracks all over them. They were like beautiful and delicate patterns on porcelain. "Fuck, it hurts so much." A Supremacy Sect disciple cursed. He wanted to turn around and stand up, but when he pressed his palm against the ground, it sank straight into it. The entire scene fell deathly silent. All of the Supremacy Sect cultivators, including the Supremacy Sage, were sweating profusely, their faces pale. The ground beneath them was like paper. With the slightest touch, it would disintegrate into powder. It couldn't be any more broken. If this strength hadn't seeped into the ground, but instead exploded within their bodies, they feared they would have already become piles of minced meat. Everyone's eyes fell on Qinyu, shocked, speechless. The Supremacy Sage climbed up. Without caring about his distressed appearance, he bowed and said, "Junior Zhang Wei greets the 100-mile ruler." He wasn't stupid. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to reach Golden Core and establish his own sect. In Severed Spirit Mountain, the only one with such a cultivation was the mysterious and unfathomable 100-mile ruler. But who would have thought that the 100-mile ruler, who was rumored to have transcendent methods and was cruel and merciless, was actually a fair-skinned young man? As he thought about the Supremacy Sect's proclamation as well as his previous rudeness, the Supremacy Sage began to sweat and his face paled. One couldn't judge a book by its cover. Today he had thoroughly experienced these words. In truth, the Supremacy Sage couldn't be blamed for this. Qin Yu had obtained the little blue lamp when he was young, and his cultivation had risen by leaps and bounds. Afterwards, his appearance hadn't changed at all. In addition, after he swallowed the tumor in the sea region, his aura had been restrained at will. So how could the Supremacy Sage have sensed him? In the deathly silent crowd, countless cultivators felt their hearts turn cold and fear fill their eyes. The 100-mile ruler, he was the 100-mile ruler. He was truly as powerful as the rumors said. Qin Yu had a calm expression. The difference in their levels was far too great. Dealing with the Supremacy Sage would only take a flip of his hand. As for the awe and reverence in everyone's eyes, it was impossible for them to move his mind. Moreover, Ningling was in the valley, and he didn't want to stay outside for too long. Otherwise, he wouldn't have used such a method today to establish his prestige. Supremacy Sage, I will remember your Supremacy Sect's crime of disrespect for now. In the future, I will hand over the surrounding 300 miles to your Supremacy Sect. If there is any mistake, I will not forgive you." Zhang Wei was stunned. His heart was filled with bitterness. In the blink of an eye, he had gone from a hero who established his own sect to a guard. This drop was simply unacceptable, but there was clearly no room for discussion. Otherwise, he would really be seeking his own death. I thank the 100-mile ruler for his magnanimity. The Supremacy Sect is willing to accept punishment. Qin Yu waved his hand and took out a jade slip. I need some materials. I want to gather them before sunset. Is there a problem? Zhang Wei received it with both hands. After sweeping through it with his divine sense, he relaxed. He respectfully said, 100-mile ruler, please enter the Supremacy Sect and wait for a moment. This junior will immediately go. Qin Yu nodded. As the Supremacy Sect disciple respectfully led the way, he heard Zhang Wei's voice from behind. Everyone the 100-mile ruler has a need. I hope that everyone can help me. All materials will be purchased at a 10% premium. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. This Zhang Wei was indeed a smart person. Reality proved that smart people were always able to do things with twice the result, with half the effort. In less than a day, Zhang Wei hurried back, handing over a storage bag with both hands. Greetings, 100-mile ruler. Everything you need is inside. Qin Yu swept through it with his divine sense and was satisfied. Very good. With a flash of light, a yellow copper bowl appeared. This is a small item I obtained in my early years. Here, I reward you. He stood up and walked away. Behind him, Zhang Wei was already stunned. As he looked at the bowl in his hands and felt the powerful aura, his eyes nearly popped out of his head. This was actually a powerful Golden Core realm magic tool. Although Zhang Wei had reached Golden Core, he came from an unorthodox background and didn't have any accumulations at all. When he fought with others, he relied on his cultivation. Magic tools weren't even worth mentioning. He never imagined that, in the blink of an eye, a gold ingot would fall from the heavens and land directly on his head. This was a completely new weapon. Sect Master! Sect Master! Zhang Wei cried out and finally regained his composure. He turned his head and saw that Qin Yu had already disappeared. The Supremacy Sect cultivator who spoke gulped, his face full of envy. The 100-mile ruler has already left. He hesitated for a moment and then continued to say, You ordered us to find another sect. Do you still want to continue? Zhang Wei's complexion changed. He righteously reprimanded. Don't speak such nonsense. The 100-mile ruler ordered my Supremacy Sect to guard his cave dwelling, and that means he has taken my entire sect under his command. How could I betray my master? Pass down my orders. Immediately pack up our belongings. We will leave tomorrow and move to the periphery of the 100-mile ruler's cave dwelling. The Supremacy Sect cultivator had an aggrieved expression. He thought that this was all his master's orders, and he had been wrongly accused. But he wasn't stupid enough to say anything. He nodded and left. Zhang Wei rubbed the bowl, his face filled with excitement. He suddenly realized that it was better to lean against a big tree and enjoy the shade. The 100-mile ruler was clearly a thick thigh, and he also seemed to have a generous personality. And most importantly, he was incomparably generous. If he followed him, he might have a bright future ahead of him. As the Supremacy Sage was lost in his thoughts, Qin Yu had already returned to the mountain valley. He knocked on the door and handed over a storage bag. The materials are all here. I saw that senior apprentice Sister Ning cut down a large piece of wood. If there's anything you need me to help with, feel free to ask. Ning Ling blushed red. She grabbed the storage bag and rolled her eyes at him. No need. Bang! The door closed. Qin Yu rubbed his nose. He thought that something was wrong. Something must have happened to senior apprentice Sister Ning. Another day passed. Ning Ling's door opened, and she calmly walked out. She said to Qin Yu, Everything has been prepared. Junior apprentice Brother Qin, follow me. As she spoke, she pointed at the chicken overlord. Have it leave, and that wild wolf. It's best if we don't get disturbed when we're doing something. Have them go out and stand guard. The chicken overlord's eyes turned. It stared at the man and woman, its intuition telling it that something was wrong. But Qin Yu clearly wouldn't give it a chance to play any tricks. He grabbed it and tossed it out. He said, Take it out to guard the house. If it dares to move, beat it up. The wild wolf howled in agreement. It bit down on the chicken overlord's fluffy feathers, ignoring the chicken overlord struggling. It turned and ran away, vanishing into the fog in several blinks of an eye. Qin Yu turned around. Senior apprentice Sister Ning, do you have any other instructions? Ning Ling shook her head. Follow me. Creak! The door opened and closed. Qin, you could keenly sense that there was some sort of array formation laid down in the room. It should be used to isolate auras and prevent others from probing. This was reasonable. After all, there were some risks involved in drawing out one's bloodline. It was always right to be cautious. But in the room, What was up with the two newly made wooden barrels? Moreover, they were steaming hot and carried with them the smell of herbs. Qin Yu looked at them several times. As he recalled Ning Ling's previous performance, his face stiffened. Senior apprentice Sister Ning, this is... Ning Ling leaned to the side. She lightly said, "Take off your clothes." Her voice was calm, without the slightest fluctuation of emotion. "But Senior apprentice Sister, why are your ears red?" Chapter 255. Genius in a Second. Qin Yu sat in the barrel. The thick smell of medicine drilled into his nose along with the steaming heat. His skin felt a bit hot, but he didn't care about it at all. At this time his hands were resting on the edge of the barrel and his back was exposed to the air. Ning Ling raised her brush and carefully drew. A demon head with two horns and closed eyes gradually took shape. When the last stroke fell, Qin Yu could faintly hear a distant roar resounding in his soul. Ning Ling put away her brush and said in a soft voice, "It's done." Drawing the demon head had clearly consumed a great deal of her energy. Her dress was soaked in sweat and stuck to her body. Although she tried her best to maintain her calm, she still shivered beneath Qin Yu's gaze. After waiting for a while, Qin Yu didn't seem to notice anything at all. Ning Ling clenched her teeth. "Have you seen enough? You, turn around." "Okay." Qin Yu's hula was followed by the sound of water splashing. There was a rustling sound, followed by the sound of water entering. After a moment, Ning Ling said, "Turn around." Her black hair hung down, and her snow-white shoulders were exposed. Qin Yu's eyes swept over the folded dress and silk undergarments. His mouth felt dry. Ning Ling suppressed her shyness and earnestly said, "Junior apprentice, Brother Qin, this is a matter of rights and interests. You must not think too much about it. Extracting the bloodline is not an ordinary matter. Once an accident occurs, it will be extremely dangerous." As she spoke, her voice was incomparably solemn. Qin Yu's heart chilled. He regained his clarity of mind and cupped his hands together. "Senior apprentice, Sister Ning, rest assured that I know what to do." He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened them again, they were like an ancient well without a single ripple. Ning Ling's eyes brightened, revealing a look of appreciation. As long as one could accomplish great things, they always had a strong ability to control themselves. Qin Yu had done this very well. She calmed down a little. "In a moment, I will lead the process of extracting the bloodline. Once I finish, Junior apprentice Brother Qin must immediately begin to swallow it. Make sure you don't miss any opportunities." She closed her eyes. Her exposed shoulders, neck, and face began to rapidly grow with lines. The left side shined with a golden light, and the right side was pitch black. She frowned, revealing a pained expression. Then she lifted a hand and pointed between her eyebrows. As soon as she pointed her finger, the medicinal liquid in the wooden barrel she was in instantly boiled. Large amounts of bubbles gushed out, and with a gulp, gulp sound, a white mist enveloped her. The fog became increasingly thick, and it was no longer possible to see Ning Ling's figure. One could only faintly hear the faint sounds of cracking. Qin Yu wasn't a stranger to this. This was the trembling of one's flesh, blood, and bones. The degree of pain represented was nearly unbearable. But Ning Ling didn't make a single sound. Qin Yu frowned, worry in his eyes. As his complexion became increasingly gloomy, the thick fog suddenly began to rapidly split apart. Every piece collapsed inwards, condensing into sharp needles that shined with a dazzling, silver-white light. Puff! Puff! Countless voices sounded out at the same time. Qin Yu's complexion changed. Ning Ling's pale face revealed a smile, and she shook her head. The long needles formed from the mist all pierced into the pitch-black patterns that occupied half of the body. Every point where the needles landed was the intersection of the patterns. It actually began to twist like a living creature. The golden patterns on the other half of its body shone brightly. It seemed to have sensed its opponent's predicament and launched a brazen attack. The dense golden light was like blazing lava flowing out of the mouth of a volcano. It spread along the pitch-black patterns and expelled everything in its path. The demonic bloodline wasn't willing to accept defeat. Ning Ling stuffily coughed and bit down on the corner of her lips. Faint traces of black energy gathered above her head. The demonic phantom appeared and roared endlessly, as if it were asking her why she had given up on the power of the demonic path. Ning Ling closed her eyes, ignoring its roars. She stimulated her divine bloodline with all of her strength. The golden light became increasingly intense, like a rising sun that illuminated the entire wooden house. Hum! There was a humming sound in the void. The array formation began to revolve, completely shielding out the golden light and the aura it emitted. Qin Yu tensed. As he faced this golden light, he instinctively felt loathing. His heart raced, and all his blood tumbled about. He suppressed the violence in his heart and nervously stared at Ning Ling. The pitch-black patterns on the surface of her body were constantly fading away. Above her head, the demonic phantom's roars became increasingly shrill and shrill. Ning Ling's face was devoid of blood, but there was no hesitation or cowardice in her furrowed eyebrows. Qin Yu revealed a look of admiration. Now it seemed that although it was incomparably painful, Ning Ling wasn't in too much danger. Then all he needed to do was wait until her demonic bloodline was extracted and then swallow it as quickly as possible. Only like this could he reduce the pain Ning Ling had to endure as much as possible. Qin Yu closed his eyes. He could feel the wild and craving within his mortal body. From the moment Ning Ling began to expel the demonic bloodline, she had sensed a strength that could help her become stronger. Now he wanted to feel this craving and fuse into it. Gudu, gudu. In the wooden barrel where Qin Yu was, the medicinal water began to boil. The demonic phantom behind him turned an incomparably bright red. Its closed eyes flickered in and out of existence in the fog. Junior apprentice Brother Qin. The moment Ning Ling spoke, Qin Yu's eyes flashed open. His eyes were blood red, and a brutal and overbearing aura of annihilation erupted from his body. At this time, the eyes of the demonic phantom behind him opened a sliver. Bang! The demonic phantom above Ning Ling's head exploded, turning into tumbling fog. Countless wisps of black energy overflowed from her body, fusing into the fog. Within the pitch-black fog, it was gradually dyed with the color of blood. As if it were being attracted by something, the eyes of the demonic phantom behind Qin Yu opened a sliver. There was a sharp cry from within the fog. Like a river breaking through a dam, the black and blood-stained fog rushed out, entering Qin Yu's head and drilling into his body. At this time, he felt as if he had been placed within countless crimson coals that were crazily burning him. The pain was extreme, but it was also delightful to the extreme. Every inch of his flesh and blood shivered. With loud crackling sounds, his flesh and blood and bones began to disintegrate. Then they regenerated at an astonishing speed and continued to disintegrate. This process repeated itself. On the surface of Qin Yu's skin, cracks appeared and disappeared. He gently shivered, a pained expression on his face, but his eyebrows relaxed. On his back, the demonic phantom's eyes opened more and more. It seemed to become three-dimensional, as if it could walk out from Qin Yu's body at any moment. Whoosh! When the last bit of fog fused into his body, Qin Yu reared back his head and roared. The wooden barrel loudly shattered, and the medicinal water splashed out in all directions. His blood-red eyes stubbornly stared at Ning Ling. He emitted a deep and tyrannical roar from his mouth. Bang! Qin Yu took a step forwards. The ground several feet around him instantly collapsed. Terrifying cracks spread outwards like a spider web. Ning Ling had a complex expression. She lifted a hand, and the demonic phantom on Qin Yu's back closed its eyes. The blood-red color faded from its eyes, and it fell backwards. No one caught it, so a human-shaped pit appeared on the ground. After a long time, Ning Ling recovered a bit of her strength. She walked out from the wooden barrel. A slender, snow-white thigh appeared, and then another slender, snow-white thigh appeared. The further up they went, the more they bulged and tightened. Then there were towering snow-white peaks after putting on her dress. Ning Ling walked over and gently stroked Qin Yu's face. There was no shyness in her eyes, only an indescribable sorrow. Qin Yu felt as if he had slept for a long time. It was an incomparably comfortable sleep. It was dark and dreamless, as if he were wandering in a warm spring, unwilling to wake up. But no matter how good a sleep was, there would eventually be a moment when he would wake up. Those who slept for a long time without waking up were only the dead. Qin Yu opened his eyes. After a brief moment of confusion, he suddenly sat up. Bang! The bed board shattered and he fell to the ground. He looked distressed, but his eyes were filled with pleasant surprise, and a smile gradually lifted the corners of his lips. He had broken through. Closing his eyes, Qin Yu could clearly feel that his flesh and blood had clearly become tougher and more formidable, containing a strength that could uproot mountains and break rivers. Within his chest, his heartbeat was slow, but every time it contracted, it was like beating a giant cowhide drum. He could even feel the vibrations coming from it. His blood also flowed much slower, but Qin Yu was well aware that once he fought with others, his heartbeat would accelerate and his blood would roar like a river. And this wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was that after his demon body made a breakthrough, the great Tao of nascent soul was right in front of him. Shua! Qin Yu opened his eyes. He stood up and strode out. Because he couldn't control his strength, every step he took left behind footprints of varying depths. Even the door to his room had been destroyed by him. Even so, the smile on Qin Yu's face didn't diminish in the least because of this. He wanted to tell Ning Ling that he had made a breakthrough. The little cultivator of the past would soon reach nascent soul. Then, in this world, as far as his eyes could see, he would be able to gallop as he pleased. He wanted to ask Ning Ling whether or not she was willing to roam the world with him and be his immortal couple, never leaving him for the rest of his life. Yes, Qin Yu didn't want to wait any longer, and he didn't want to play riddles any longer. He wanted to tell Ning Ling what he wanted, because from now on he finally had the strength to protect her and the qualifications to give her happiness. He excitedly pushed open the door. As the trees cried out in pain, Qin Yu swept his eyes around the mountain valley. Then his heart skipped a beat and he began to panic. Ning Ling's wooden house was already in ruins. There were no signs of life in the mess. She wasn't here. Where did she go? Bang! The ground shattered. Qin Yu rushed out like a bolt of lightning. He tore through the thick fog and flew out of the mountain valley. Looking around, his tense body relaxed a little and a look of joy appeared in his eyes. Not too far away from the mountain valley, in another small valley, there were several wooden houses built. A figure pushed open the door and walked out, a smile on her face as she looked at him from afar. It was Ning Ling. Qin Yu's figure flashed, and he flew out of the valley. Ning Ling suddenly waved her hand. Junior apprentice, Brother Qin, with your brute strength, do you really want to destroy the residence I worked so hard to clean up? Qin Yu revealed an awkward expression. Senior apprentice, Sister Ning, why did you move here? Ning Ling smiled. Junior apprentice, Brother Qin, needs space to control his rising strength. I also need a quiet environment to familiarize myself with the changes in my bloodline. So, after thinking about it, I decided to temporarily move out. Qin Yu nodded to express his understanding. The surging emotions in his heart had been interrupted, making it difficult for him to speak. He opened his mouth. Ning Ling suddenly said, I am about to go into seclusion for several days. If Junior Apprentice, Brother Qin, doesn't have anything else to do, then I won't be accompanying you any longer. Qin Yu thought about it. There was indeed no need to be in such a hurry. This sort of matter needed the time and atmosphere to be perfect before he could speak of it. He cupped his hands together. Senior Apprentice Sister Ning, please cultivate. I will also go into seclusion for several days to hone my control over my strength." As he spoke, he turned to leave, but stopped. He earnestly said, "I must thank Senior Apprentice, Sister, this time. In the future, I am willing to shelter Senior Apprentice, Sister, from the wind and rain." Whoosh! Qin Yu's figure flew far away. Although he didn't say it out loud, this could be considered as expressing his feelings to a certain degree. Ningling turned and returned to her room. The moment she closed the door, she covered her mouth and her eyes turned red. She suddenly felt that she was far too selfish. Chapter 256. Genius 1. Second, remember if you want to go? Sure, Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Returning to the mountain valley, Qin Yu first tidied up the mess. Although there were countless footprints left behind, this was extremely beneficial to him in controlling his mortal body strength. The wild wolf's gaze was solemn. Its eyes were filled with respect and submission. Its master's current strength was truly terrifying. It had no doubt that if its master wanted to, he could easily smash the surrounding mountains into smithereens. The other pair of eyes belonged to the chicken overlord. It originally wanted to gossip about just what Qin Yu and Ningling had done that caused such a commotion that they had demolished the house. But now, no matter how much it wanted to, it didn't dare to say it, but it really wanted to know. Qin Yu turned around. The wild wolf lay down, its tail wagging. The chicken overlord was enraged. It cursed in its heart, "What a good old wolf. You actually want to learn my methods? But even if you do, you still won't be able to grasp the essence. Is wagging your tail like that? I'll let you broaden your horizons." As Qin Yu looked at the chicken overlord, he laughed and scolded it. Then he turned and walked back to his room. His devil body had made a breakthrough, and he had reached nascent soul. After the initial ecstasy passed, true excitement gushed out from the depths of his heart. This meant that he would soon step onto the peak of this world, as a young disciple of the Eastern Mountain sect. Who could have imagined that in such a short period of time he would reach his current situation? So what were they waiting for? In the shortest possible time, he would digest the strength brought about by the demon body's breakthrough and then make the final preparations for breaking into nascent soul. Qin Yu closed his eyes and cultivated. The mountain valley became tranquil once more. After borrowing the Supremacy Sect's prestige, the 100-mile ruler's limelight was unrivaled. Naturally, no one dared to intrude within a 300-mile radius. 10 days later, with a light creaking sound, Qin Yu pushed open the door. He frowned, a thoughtful look on his face. Just now, the qi and blood in his body had suddenly reversed. Even though it had disappeared in the blink of an eye, it still made him feel suffocated. Demon body sacrifice. The first time his demon body made a breakthrough, he had killed Deep Sea Demon and completed the sacrifice. With his current cultivation, if he wanted to smoothly complete the sacrifice, he feared he would need to kill a late nascent soul super powerhouse. But how could such a master be easily encountered? Luckily, there was still some time before the backlash of the demon body occurred, so there was no need to worry too much. Suppressing his thoughts, he flew out of the mountain valley and arrived at Ningling's dwelling. But she was still in seclusion. "Love, go, small, say, Netku, Senior Apprentice Sister Ning, how are you now?" After waiting for several breaths of time, Ningling lightly said, "Junior Apprentice Brother Qin must be worried about me. I'm fine." Qin Yu frowned. From this voice, he could actually feel a bit of alienation and indifference. He didn't know why, but panic surged from the depths of his heart, as if he was about to lose something incomparably important. "Senior Apprentice, Sister Ning." He stepped forwards. Ningling said, "Junior Apprentice Brother Qin, please return. I still have to cultivate." Qin Yu took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "I have something to say to Senior Apprentice, Sister Ning. Senior Apprentice Sister, please come out and see me." After a long period of silence, the door to the cabin opened and Ningling appeared. Although her appearance hadn't changed, Her eyebrows, eyes, and every other part of her exuded a noble and indifferent aura that could not be blasphemed against. She was indifferent without any fluctuations of emotion, like a god descending to the mortal world. Disgust rose in Qin Yu's heart, and his eyes turned icy cold. But in the next instant he reacted and hurriedly suppressed his emotions before forcing out a smile. "Senior Sister Ning, you seem to have become slightly different." A complex light flashed deep in Ningling's eyes before immediately disappearing. "Junior apprentice Brother Qin Yu, it isn't just me who has changed. You are also no longer the same as before. I still haven't congratulated Junior apprentice Brother Qin Yu. After your demon body made a breakthrough, there will no longer be any hindrance to your nascent soul, Great Tao. From now on, you can freely soar through this world." Qin Yu looked at Ningling. As he listened to her speak, he couldn't help but feel his heart fill with irritation. He loudly said, "Senior apprentice Sister Ning, just what happened? Why are you avoiding me?" Ningling lowered her head. "Junior apprentice Brother Qin Yu is overthinking things. I have always been like this. If I have done something wrong, I ask that you forgive me." It was this polite and aloof attitude, as if she was 1,000 miles away from him. Qin Yu clenched his teeth and reached out to grab her. "Senior apprentice Sister Ning, do you not understand my feelings?" As he grabbed Ningling, his palm seemed to pierce through some invisible barrier. Then, that soft and tender palm suddenly turned crimson red. A sizzling sound rang out, causing one's scalp to tingle. Then a dazzling golden light and the richest black in the world erupted, as if dividing the world. Rumble, rumble. A terrifying collision erupted. Shock waves rose up, sweeping through the entire mountain valley. The wooden house behind Ningling was instantly torn to pieces. Grass flew into the air and cracks crisscrossed the ground, as if a typhoon had passed through. Within Severed Spirit Mountain, countless cultivators looked up in horror. They looked up into the skies, where black and gold were confronting each other. A terrifying aura rapidly spread outwards. Strong winds bent down the treetops and swept up boulders. In the eye of the storm, Qin Yu stared at Ningling in a daze. The flesh and blood of his palm had turned crimson, and the skin on his palm even began to melt away, revealing dark red flesh. But he didn't seem to feel anything. He only looked at Ningling in a daze, feeling the hostility and icy coldness from her body. "How could this be?" Ningling lightly said. "Junior apprentice Brother Qin Yu, do you now understand why I avoided you?" She lowered her head and frowned, a look of loathing on her face. "Let go." Qin Yu's heart shrank. He subconsciously loosened his palm. The flesh and blood on his palm wriggled, and after several breaths of time, it was restored. But at this time he had no mind to pay attention to the powerful regenerative abilities of the demon body. He only stared blankly at the familiar yet strange face in front of him. She was Ningling, but she was no longer the Ningling of the past. That trace of loathing pierced through his heart like an arrow. Even with Qin Yu's powerful will and mind, he still felt a stabbing pain in his heart. He looked up and looked straight into Ningling's eyes. "Senior apprentice Sister Ning, please tell me just what is going on here." Ningling was silent for a moment. Then she slowly said, "Since ancient times, gods and demons have never coexisted. Junior apprentice Brother Qin, you obtained the demonic bloodline in my body and has already stepped onto the demonic path. I am a descendant of the divine Tao, and my aura and strength clash with yours. Even standing together causes my blood to tumble, and I feel loathing towards you. If we were to come into contact, the result would be like this." Qin Yu opened his mouth. After a long time, he said with difficulty, "Senior apprentice Sister Ning already knew this result?" Ningling nodded. "That's right." Qin Yu looked at her. "Why, if I knew that obtaining the demonic bloodline in Senior Apprentice Sister Ning would make it impossible for you to coexist with me, I would rather not have it." Ning Ling lightly said, "Junior apprentice Brother Chinyu, what are you saying? You and I are cultivators who are courageous and brave, willing to pay any price in order to pursue the great Tao. The demonic bloodline can help junior apprentice Brother Chinyu reach nascent soul. Such a great stroke of good fortune can be achieved as long as you and I never meet again. So why care about it? Moreover, expelling the demonic bloodline is also greatly beneficial to me. If I never meet senior apprentice Sister Ning again, then I don't want to make a breakthrough in my demon body." Qin Yu's eyes revealed a decisive look. "Even without the demonic bloodline, I can still make a breakthrough in my demon body and reach the great Tao of nascent soul. Today, I will destroy the bloodline in my body." He lifted a hand and pressed it against his chest. With the sound of breaking bones, his chest caved in and the black robe on his back exploded apart. The demonic head appeared once more, its eyes wide with anger. "Kacha! Kacha!" His flesh, blood, and bones trembled and cracked apart. The surface of his skin bulged out and blood vessels rose up like blue earthworms, twisting and undulating in a horrifying manner. Countless tiny cracks appeared on the surface of his skin. Dark red beads of blood slowly seeped out, soaking his robes. Ning Ling was stunned. She never thought that after Chinyu learned the truth, his choice would be so extreme. "You are insane." Ning Ling could no longer maintain her indifferent expression. She threw herself forward and pulled away Chinyu's hand. Large teardrops gushed out from the corners of her eyes. "The demonic bloodline has formed the demon body and is one with you. If you destroy it, you will also die." Qin Yu held onto her tightly. The demonic bloodline in his body seemed to sense his ruthlessness and madness. It restrained its own aura to avoid colliding with Ning Ling's bloodline of God. "Ning Ling, I know that you have me in your heart. No matter how heartless you pretend to be, you cannot deceive me." Ning Ling looked up, her eyes red. "You don't blame me for lying to you?" Qin Yu wiped away her tears. "I don't." Without anything else to say, just these two words were enough to warm her heart. "But remember, no matter what happens in the future, you cannot use such a method to reject me and distance yourself from me." Ning Ling cried, "Qin Yu, I have to go. I have to leave this place." She finally spoke the truth. Ning Ling and the Gold noble family were not people of this world. Rather, they came from a vast and boundless world that was separated by a barrier between the heavens and earth, the land of divinity and demons. Ning Ling's mother was still alive. She was imprisoned there, enduring torture and punishment. She needed to return and rescue her mother. I have already awakened my bloodline. My clan will soon arrive and bring me back to the land of divinity and demons. "Qin Yu, I have to go, I have to go." Ning Ling cried in sorrow. It was rare for her to reveal such intense emotions. She originally wanted to coldly reject Qin Yu and make him lose all hope before turning and leaving by herself. But today, Qin Yu's decisive actions had directly shattered her cold outer shell of camouflage. She wanted to stay and be with Qin Yu, but her mother was suffering in the land of divinity and demons. So how could she abandon her? Qin Yu could feel her pain and helplessness. He gently stroked her hair. "The land of divinity and demons? Senior apprentice Sister Ning, just go. No matter how far you go, I will find you." Ning Ling cried as she shook her head. "Qin, you didn't know what sort of place the land of divinity and demons was. In that vast world, there are countless powerhouses. Nascent souls could barely be classified as top-tier powerhouses. As for higher-level existences, they were like stars in the sky, so many that it was impossible to count them all. Perhaps he was already the highest peak existence here, but to the land of divinity and demons, he wasn't anything at all. It was impossible for him to obtain guidance, and there was no way for him to enter that world." These words tumbled in her heart. Ning Ling wanted to tell Qin Yu not to wait for her anymore. She wanted to pretend that she had already died in the past and find a beautiful girl to live her own life. But when these words reached the tip of her tongue, she couldn't say them. If she told him, just how much despair would Qinyu feel? As Ningling's thoughts were in chaos, her complexion suddenly changed. She looked up into the skies. Qin, you could also feel a formidable strength suddenly appearing. It was like a sword from beyond the heavens, crossing through endless space to arrive. Bang! The skies shattered and a black vortex appeared. A giant turtle crawled out from within. There were 2 cultivators on the turtle shell, their eyes cold and indifferent. Chapter 257. Genius 1 second. Remember if you want to go? Sure, Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Ningling had imagined countless times just what sort of mood she would have when the messenger from the land of divinity and demons arrived. But it was only now that she realized that all of her imaginations were less than 1% of reality. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't suppress the bitterness and sorrow that gushed out from the depths of her heart. She subconsciously held on to Qinyu, but as she thought of something, she suddenly let go and pushed Qinyu away. She respectfully bowed towards the large turtle and the 2 people on its back. Ningling greets the envoy. The 2 emissaries were extremely young, but their cultivations were extremely terrifying. They were at the mid-nascent soul stage, and given their age, it was simply unimaginable for them to be at such a level. Their expressions were indifferent, and their eyes naturally revealed a sense of superiority. The 2 envoys swept their eyes over Qinyu and frowned. Then they said, Ningling, we have come here on orders. Come with us. Ningling took a deep breath and turned to look at Qinyu. The reluctance in her eyes nearly condensed into essence. Junior apprentice, Brother Qin, forget about me. She couldn't finish her words. She turned to leave, but was caught by him. Qin Yu's expression was calm, and there was even a faint smile on his lips. I have to know where Senior Apprentice Sister Ning is going, so I can look for you in the future. Ningling's heart ached and tears nearly fell down. She squeezed out a smile. Land of divinity and demons, immortal sect. Qin Yu earnestly nodded. I will remember. Senior Apprentice Sister Ning, just wait for me. His tone was calm and steady, as if the 2 of them had only been separated for a short time and could meet again at any time. Ningling's tears finally fell. She smiled and said, Good. I will wait for Junior Apprentice, Brother Qin, to come. Letting go, Qin Yu took a step back. Ningling turned and left. Her figure drifted like an immortal as she landed on the large turtle's body. The 2 immortal sect disciples looked down from above. How could a lowly ant from the land of exiles know what sort of existence my immortal sect is? Moreover, it is impossible for you to enter the land of divinity and demons in your life. Ningling's bloodline has awakened, so she is a precious person of my immortal sect. How could we allow you to be tainted by her? From now on, give up any thoughts of coveting her. Otherwise, my immortal sect's killing curse arts can send you beyond redemption, even from 1,000,000,000,000 miles away. Seeing Qin Yu's calm expression, as if he weren't affected by their words at all, the immortal sect disciple sneered. Fine, I'll teach you a lesson today. You must know that in the future, you must respect my immortal sect like a god. He raised his hand and slapped down. Rumble! A giant golden hand appeared. It was as dazzling as the sun, and a terrifying aura instantly enveloped the entire severed spirit mountain. The collapse of the sky and the appearance of the vortex had already attracted a great deal of attention. Now that the golden hand descended, all eyes were on the turtle. Countless cultivators widened their eyes, shock and fear on their faces. The aura emitted by the golden hand caused endless awe to rise up from the depths of their souls. Qin Yu looked up at the descending palm, a cold light flashing in his eyes. Indeed, this person from the land of divinity and demons didn't place a lowly life form in their eyes at all. If he really only had his cultivation on the surface, even if he didn't die from that palm strike, he would have crippled most of his cultivation. Was this how a casual lesson was? Qin Yu's favorable impression of this immortal sect that he had never heard of before suddenly vanished. He lifted his hand. Within his Dantian Sea, the 5-element golden cores simultaneously exploded. Magic power surged out, condensing into a boundless tide that instantly erupted. A silver-white magic sword materialized at the tip of his finger and slashed at the golden hand. Shwa! It was so fast that it was like a bolt of silver lightning. In an instant, it collided with the giant golden hand. Bang! The giant golden hand was split in half and then exploded in the air. Golden flames burned around it, and the silver lightning shot out from these flames, advancing forwards. On the back of the turtle, the 2 immortal sect disciples had grim expressions. They revealed shock in their eyes. They never imagined that there would be someone in the land of exiles that could break through their immortal arts. The giant turtle's narrowed eyes suddenly opened. The silver lightning that slashed at it trembled and collapsed. Qin Yu seemed to suffer a heavy blow. He stuffily coughed, and blood flowed out from his head. His eyes darkened. Junior apprentice, Brother Qin. Ningling screamed out, "Envoy, please forgive him." Junior apprentice, Brother Qin, didn't mean to offend you. The 2 immortal sect disciples hesitated for a moment. Then they coldly snorted, "Let's go." Ningling's bloodline had awakened, and she would surely have a place in the immortal sect in the future. They didn't want to provoke her for no reason. Although Qin Yu's performance was formidable, he was nothing more than an ant in the land of exiles. He was doomed to have no hopes of reaching the great Tao. He wasn't worth mentioning at all. The giant turtle turned around and slowly crawled towards the vortex. Besides the divine might it revealed when it opened its eyes, no one could imagine just what sort of terrifying strength it possessed. But such a terrifyingly strong giant turtle was actually willing to be driven around by 2 immortal sect disciples. From this, one could imagine just how formidable the immortal sect's background was. Ningling turned around and looked at the gradually blurring figure on the ground. She tried her best not to cry, and a brilliant smile lit up her face. Perhaps this would be the last time she saw junior apprentice Brother Qin. How could she cry in such an ugly manner? She had to leave her most beautiful appearance in his memories. The giant turtle flew into the vortex and vanished from sight. Everything seemed like an illusion, but the person in his arms was already far away. Qin Yu's body swayed. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face paled. What a terrifying giant turtle! Just a single glance had wounded his soul. It was just that he didn't want Ningling to worry, so he didn't reveal anything. Land of divinity and demons, immortal sect. Qin Yu muttered to himself. His eyes were firm. He would definitely go. Within a wooden house in a mountain valley, Qin Yu sat down cross-legged and began to heal himself. With Ningling gone, Qin Yu couldn't help but feel a sense of loss. But he wouldn't collapse because of this. She had only temporarily left to go to a place he had no way of reaching. But as long as his cultivation was strong enough, Qin Yu believed he would be able to see her again soon. If that was the case, then instead of feeling sad, he might as well use it to cultivate. That way, he would be able to reunite with Ningling earlier. With his demon body making a breakthrough, there were no longer any obstacles blocking his nascent soul great Tao. What Qin Yu needed to do next was to recover from his injuries and then make a breakthrough in his cultivation and complete the sacrifice of his demon body. Within his soul space, motes of starlight sprinkled down, constantly fusing into Qin Yu's soul and repairing his injuries. Suddenly, Spirity opened her eyes. She stared at Qin Yu's soul, a dignified look in her eyes. After several breaths of time, she lifted a hand and pointed a finger. Qin Yu's soul opened his eyes, but his eyes were pitch black, as thick as ink. "Come out." With a loud shout, Spirity pulled outwards. 2 balls of black flew out, turning into a skeleton that lingered with demonic energy. Qin Yu was alarmed. He sent his consciousness into his soul and coldly asked, "What is this?" Spirity said, "The soul-sending technique. To place a fragment of one's own soul into a cultivator's body and absorb the strength of their soul to strengthen one's own body, finally completing the swallowing process." Qin Yu's complexion was ugly. He subconsciously thought of Heaven's Seek Pavilion and that Heaven's Seek old demon. This was likely something left behind by him. "Spirity, can you find out who attacked me?" Spirity nodded. "I will try." She closed her eyes. Threads of light shot out from her hands and drilled into the skeleton. In the distance, in a manner, a figure in a black wooden house suddenly opened his eyes. He looked up at the void in front of him. Divine light exploded in his eyes, rumbling towards Spirity like a waterfall. Spirity stuffily coughed. The threads of light in her palms directly exploded and her complexion paled. Qin Yu opened his eyes. He had already seen who it was that attacked him. Heaven's Seek Pavilion. That mysterious young cultivator. Could he be Heaven's Seek old demon? Qin Yu suddenly felt a great dread rise in his heart. His thoughts raced and his consciousness left his soul space. His eyes were firm. He couldn't wait any longer. He had to break into nascent soul as soon as possible. After tidying up his things, Qin Yu stepped forwards and shot into the skies. As for where he was going to cross tribulation, he had already decided. In the black wooden house, the young man gently sighed, a helpless look on his face. Everything had been going smoothly. He was just waiting for Qin Yu to cross tribulation, and then he would be able to quietly swallow him at the critical moment. "Partner soul, it's actually a partner soul." The young man smiled. Although it would be a bit troublesome if an accident occurred, the existence of a partner soul was actually a pleasant surprise. The young man looked up and lightly ordered, "Ghost, pass down my order. Find Qin Yu as soon as possible." With Heaven's Seek Pavilion's eyes and ears, no matter how vast the world was, as long as Qin Yu appeared, he would definitely be discovered. Moreover, he was crossing nascent soul heavenly tribulation. So how could there be no movement at all? In the shadows in the corner, there was a slight movement. An order from the highest level spread through the world at an astonishing speed. With such influence and status, Qin Yu's guess was correct. This young man was the highest ruler of Heaven's Seek Pavilion. Heaven's Seek old demon. Meanwhile, at Immortal Eclipse Valley, Pill Crucible held a jade slip in his hands. There was only a blurry image inside, but it was enough for him to judge that this was his long-lost son. "Pah!" The jade slip shattered. Pill Crucible roared, "Heaven's Seek old demon!" Bang! The aura of a peak nascent soul violently ravaged the world. Jiang Li cupped his hands across his chest. He said, "Valley Master, please calm your anger. Heaven's Seek Pavilion's influence is unfathomably deep. We are currently in a fierce conflict with the demonic path, so it is not good for us to fight again." Pill Crucible took a deep breath, slowly restraining his aura, but his eyes became even colder. He slowly said, "I know your scruples, but Chan Er's death is the greatest flaw in my mind. I made an oath long ago that if I found out who harmed my child, I would not hesitate to pay any price to burn their bones to ashes. You do not need to worry. As long as I can kill Heaven's Seek old demon, my mind will reach perfection and I will be able to take the final step and achieve divine soul. At that time, who cares about the demon monarch?" Jiang Li's eyes shined with a divine light. He bowed. "If that's the case, then I will obey Valley Master's orders." Pill Crucible stood up. This normally lazy old man who cared about face revealed the overbearing and disdainful attitude of a peerless powerhouse. A powerful aura descended like a great sun, sweeping through the world. "Pass down my order. Immortal Eclipse Valley is to destroy Heaven's Seek Pavilion no matter the cost." In a single day, Heaven's Seek Pavilion branches in 37 cities were uprooted. A storm of blood arrived without warning in the Southern Empire and Northern Dynasty. Countless cultivators were scared witless. They didn't know what was happening, but there was one thing they were sure of. A terrifying upheaval that would sweep through the world was about to arrive. Demonic Path High Command. The demon monarch thought for several breaths of time. Then he smiled. How interesting. It looks like Pill Crucible has already found out that the murderer who killed his child is actually Heavenseek Pavilion. He lifted a hand. Pass down my orders. We will temporarily stop and watch them fight each other while my demonic path reaps the benefits. Within a black wooden house, Heavenseek Old Demon's complexion was pale. His heart was filled with ruthlessness, nearly driving him insane. Immortal Eclipse Valley's sudden attack had ruined his meticulous plan. With Qin Yu's cautious nature, once he realized that Heavenseek Old Demon had taken action, he would surely cross tribulation as quickly as possible. But now, Heavenseek Pavilion strength was being held down by Immortal Eclipse Valley, unable to be used at all. Once Qin Yu broke into nascent soul, even Heavenseek Old Demon didn't have full confidence he could seize his body. As Heavenseek Old Demon thought about how all his years of planning would be ruined in a single day, he clenched his teeth and roared, "Pill Crucible, I will make sure you die without a grave!" Chapter 258. A shocking beam of light came from the distance, its speed as fast as lightning. It landed on the top of a low mountain and then vanished to reveal Qin Yu's figure. When he looked ahead, there was a boundless plain that was desolate and silent. Besides withered yellow weeds, there was actually not a trace of vitality. If one continued to venture deeper, even these withered weeds would gradually fade away and eventually become a barren land. The land of exiles. Qin Yu muttered to himself. A sharp light flashed deep in his eyes. Yes, his goal this time was the land of sealed demons that Yu Qi had brought him to in the past. First of all, the land of sealed demons possessed a great power that imprisoned the strength of demonic path cultivators. Once Heavenseek Old Demon locked onto him, he might not dare to recklessly enter. Taking a step back, even if Heavenseek Old Demon entered the land of sealed demons, his strength would inevitably be restricted. Perhaps this would give Qin Yu the strength to contend with him. Secondly, there was also an old demon in the land of sealed demons, Blue Cloud Demon. After Qin Yu broke into nascent soul, he urgently needed to kill a late nascent soul superpower house as a sacrifice. This old demon was obviously an excellent candidate. After resting for a moment, light flashed around him and he shot up into the skies, continuing his journey. The deeper one went into the land of exiles. The more life was extinguished. There seemed to be a keen chill floating in the air. With Qin Yu's current cultivation and vision, it naturally far surpassed what it was in the past. As he looked at the barren land below him, he discovered even more. It really did seem to be a cursed land. Any cultivator that stepped into it would be infected. If one's cultivation base was weak, then they would be affected by the power of the curse, and it would be difficult for them to have a good end. It was no wonder that this place was considered a forbidden area by the cultivators of the Northern Dynasty. Normally, no one dared to enter. Qin Yu didn't know whether or not this curse aura would affect him, but at this time he couldn't care too much about it. The land of sealed demons was his best choice to break into nascent soul. An hour later, Qin Yu stopped. He frowned. He had already entered deep into the land of exiles, but he still couldn't find the aura of the land of sealed demons. If it weren't for the fact that Yu Qi had led him into the land of sealed demons, he would have never noticed anything. He couldn't find the entrance to the land of sealed demons. Qin Yu's thoughts raced. He lifted a hand and punched the ground. Bang! The ground shook violently, and the rumbling sound spread far and wide. Cracks appeared on the ground and rapidly spread outwards. Not here. Qin Yu stepped forwards and punched out again. He was like a tyrant of destruction. Wherever he passed, the ground would rumble and collapse. Another fist fell. Qin Yu suddenly turned his head. A weak fluctuation of spells appeared deep underground. Found it. The land of sealed demons was well hidden. Perhaps even the person who built this place in the past never imagined that their meticulous concealment would be forcefully broken through by others in such a barbaric manner. To a certain degree, this was what Qin Yu was doing right now. Qin Yu didn't have full confidence he could open the spells of the land of sealed demons with his own array formation cultivation. Then there was only one choice left: brute force. With a flick of his sleeve, the 5 elemental swords appeared and circled around his body. As he lifted his hand and pointed, the 5 elemental swords whistled out. In an instant, it sank into the depths of the earth. Rumble, deep underground, a roar rang out incessantly. The soil tumbled about crazily like a torrential wave. With a loud bang, the soil was blasted into the air, and billowing demonic energy erupted. It was open. Qin Yu stepped in. His body was like a boulder as he fell into the shattered earth. Whoosh, whoosh, the 5 elemental swords flew back. They circled around his body, cutting through the earth and continuing downwards. Deep within the land of sealed demons, the air fluctuated. Blue Cloud Demon's figure appeared. He looked up, his eyes cloudy and uncertain. He could feel a powerful aura tearing apart the spells of the land of sealed demons, trying to break in. He didn't know why, but a faint trace of dread grew in his heart. The owner of this aura didn't seem to have good intentions. A black light surged in Blue Cloud Demon's eyes. Regardless of whether this person was good or bad, this was an excellent opportunity for him. If the spells of the land of sealed demons were really broken, and he could escape, he would have nothing to fear in this barren land of exiles. As Blue Cloud Demon thought this, he looked towards the direction where the aura of breaking spells was coming from. He was actually looking forward to it. Time slowly passed. That powerful aura grew closer and closer. The black light in Blue Cloud Demon's eyes had reached the extreme. He didn't need to make any preparations, because during the several hundred years he had been sealed away, he had been constantly preparing. He was only waiting for a turning point to appear. Closer, even closer. Suddenly, that powerful aura seemed to come to a stop. Blue Cloud Demon frowned, a dignified look in his eyes. He thought that even his pants were all ready. He couldn't give up halfway. 2 hours. For hours. Blue Cloud Demon's face gradually revealed a look of anxiety. Could it be that he had retreated, or perhaps he had been injured? As a person, one had to finish what they started. Don't give up. You've already entered deep into the spells of the land of sealed demons. If you continue for just a little longer, you will be able to break through the spells. You really are just a little bit off. Hurry up and do it, you bastard. 3 days passed, and that aura didn't move again. Gradually, it even became difficult to sense. Was it because his injuries were too heavy and he had lost his life? Blue Cloud Demon despaired. His lips curved up in a cruel sneer. What a useless thing. With just this bit of strength, he actually dared to rush into the land of sealed demons. What a disgrace. He was silent for a long time. Then he sighed. Many years ago, he had a chance to escape. Everything was going according to plan, but who knew that he would be pecked in the eye by a sparrow? Thinking of that damned brat's face, Blue Cloud Demon clenched his teeth. He wished he could grab hold of that brat, cut him into pieces, and then fry him. At this time, Blue Cloud Demon's eyelids jumped up. He fiercely looked up, his complexion strange as if he had seen a ghost. This was the aura of heavenly tribulation. He was actually crossing tribulation in the land of sealed demons. Didn't he know that when this place was built in the past, it borrowed the power of the curse? Once it was sensed by the will of the world, the power of heavenly tribulation would rise by 10 times. Blue Cloud Demon's face flushed red. As he thought about that cultivator who had torn apart the spells of the land of sealed demons and had been his chance to escape, after 3 days of solitude, he actually began to cross tribulation. He felt like he was going crazy. You bastard! You gave me hope and now you're playing with suicide. What are you trying to do? If you want to die, then fuck off far away and die. Don't act like an idiot in front of me. The air seemed to solidify, even though they were separated by such a great distance, and there were also the spells of the land of sealed demons blocking them. The feeling was still terrifying. It could be imagined just what degree the might of heavenly tribulation had reached. Blue Cloud Demon chuckled. He thought to himself, "Do you know how great of a mistake it is to cross tribulation in the land of sealed demons? Although I can't see your expression right now, just thinking about it is enough to guess. I want to see just how you'll die." Qin Yu sat down cross-legged in the underground cave formed by the black rock walls. As he felt the aura of heavenly tribulation above his head, he was indeed stunned. But it had nothing to do with the panic and despair that Blue Cloud Demon was thinking about. He only felt that he had inadvertently obtained some harvests this time. Within his Dantian Sea, the little blue lamp that had fused into the great Tao base began to emit a dazzling light. Open eyes. To continue this chapter, please turn to the next page. Bang, without warning, lightning illuminated the black rock walls. Endless black energy appeared on the surface of the black rock walls. Then it tumbled and condensed into pained faces. The rich curse aura left Qin Yu apprehensive as he sensed it. And at this time, the tribulation thunder that appeared above his head had already broken away from its initial form. It was actually a brilliant magic sort of thunder. It seemed to cross through space and time to arrive. It represented the will of the world as it cut down towards Qin Yu. As it cut down, the pained faces formed by the power of the curse all opened their eyes to stare at Qin Yu. The thunder magic sword held forwards. Every inch of lightning contained a destructive strength. Once it exploded, it could turn mountains to powder and evaporate lakes. But today, the person it encountered was someone who didn't play his cards according to common sense. Thus, it wasn't given the chance to display its might at all. It was like a giant mouth had appeared in the void. With a single gulp, the thunder magic sword vanished from sight. The lightning that illuminated the black rock walls instantly vanished without a trace. This change was far too great. Even the faces formed by the power of the curse were stunned. Then the eyes on those faces stared straight at Qin Yu, as if they had seen something that greatly interested them. Qin Yu frowned. He secretly raised his guard. But at this time, a second bolt of thunder arrived without warning. This time it was a thunder bead. It was a foot long and deep purple in color. The destructive strength contained within it was twice that of the thunder magic sword. Unfortunately, it was still useless. In front of the little blue lamp, all heavenly tribulation was a tonic without exception. As they watched Qin Yu swallow the thunder bead once more, the eyes of the faces on the black rock walls began to shine with light. Blue Cloud Demon's eyes widened. He had an expression of disbelief, ecstasy, and then worry. His expression was complex beyond compare. His foundation in expression had surpassed imagination. What he didn't dare to believe was that this intruder actually had the ability to resist heavenly tribulation. This was the land of sealed demons that was filled with the power of the curse. The might of heavenly tribulation had increased by 10 times. So how could he possibly resist it? Whether he believed it or not, this was the truth. He had crossed the first tribulation thunder and had also crossed the second. What he was overjoyed about was that if this person crossed the heavenly tribulation, he would surely be much stronger. There was a high chance that he would be able to break through the spells of the land of sealed demons and escape. As for worry, that was because this intruder's aura wasn't good and his strength was unfathomably deep. He didn't have the confidence to deal with him. However, with his cultivation, if he wanted to leave, even if this person was at the divine soul realm, they still might not be able to stop him. Moreover, the hundreds of years of preparation wouldn't be in vain. His heart gradually calmed down. Blue Cloud Demon's eyes widened. He only needed to wait for the tribulation to end and for the spells of the land of sealed demons to shatter. Then he would escape as fast as he could. He didn't know why, but the first thing that appeared in Blue Cloud Demon's mind was the face of that hateful junior from the past. After a moment of silence, he fiercely smiled. "You little bastard, you didn't think that I would have a chance to escape, did you? Just you wait. Once I leave and go into seclusion to restore my cultivation, I will definitely find you." The air suddenly sank, seeming to solidify. Blue Cloud Demon's heart shrank, and a dignified look appeared in his eyes. The third bolt of tribulation thunder had arrived. The might of this thunder surpassed his imagination. Even sensing it from here, it caused his soul to tremble. What a terrifying, heavenly tribulation! Could the person crossing tribulation block it? Blue Cloud Demon nervously waited. After several breaths of time, he revealed a gratified look and let out a light sigh. He finally determined that the strength of this person wasn't something he could resist. He had blocked the terrifying third bolt of tribulation thunder.